One ring to rule them all. One ring to find them. One ring to bring them all. And in the darkness, find them.
Now, if it wasn't obvious by the intro of this episode, there for me was never any doubt that if I was going to talk about today's topic, I would get anyone other than Mia, because I don't think I could ever meet someone who these movies mean as much to and is as knowledgeable about them. And this is also kind of I feel like this is a pretty big one, because this is a trilogy that's kind of become, it's become like an all-timer.
I think it's number one trilogy.
I think it's proved that it's going to stay within the pop culture consciousness.
Number one trilogy, but like the first Matrix, like perfect movie.
But then they made more.
Yeah, but whatever about that. But like first Matrix, like that I think that's always in the like from then on, like.
Oh yeah, there are plenty of ones where you can say like one of the I'd say like The Dark Knight is my favorite live action movie. I like the other two, but I don't think they're flawless masterpieces,
Yeah, but I'm talking about like when I'm trying like cultural like something that is like Jaws is some. I think Jaws was the first PG-13 movie.
No, PG-13 wasn't invented until the mid to late 80s. It was because of Gremlins and Temple of Doom.
Really?
Yeah. So there you could get away with there's some pretty raunchy old PG movies.
I know, yeah. There used to just there's like a really funny skit about how like random the plot of Back to the Future is.
Yeah.
like if you think about it, you're like, wait, why? Who? Why are we watching this? Yeah.
So if you can't tell from the title of the episode, we're talking the Lord of the Rings Peter Jackson film trilogy.
Number one trilogy.
Fellowship of the Ring, The Two Towers, Return of the King. Now, a little bit of a let's do a little groundwork. We're gonna get to the movies, but I want to ask you first. Before you even knew that these movies were coming out, did you have any history with the works of J.R.R. Tolkien?
No. You know what? I remember that Fellowship of the Ring came out when I was using AOL, because like that's how old it that dates it, because I remember vaguely I don't know if chat rooms really weren't big thing. Forums were. I don't know.
Chat rooms were big in the early 2000s.
I mean, for like subject matter, like Discord or something.
Oh
yeah. I was definitely on once Lord of the Rings came out. I was on all the Lord of the Rings
chat rooms.
I was on all the chat rooms.
Message boards.
Yep, and my God,
But it's not a property that you were into before these movies.
No, let me see. So
you hadn't read the books. You hadn't read The Hobbit.
I knew about it. I knew Gandalf and I knew hobbits were a thing. It reminds me of a line from The Office, like, you're evil like a hobbit. I don't know.
That's incorrect.
I know that is incorrect, but it was just so random. I don't even know if I made it into the show. I think it's just in the bloopers. It was like...
Right.
But, I definitely knew about that world. I mean, because Lord of the Rings, I don't think Dune gets enough...
the book?
The book. I don't think it gets enough credit for being a major people do talk about how Dune came out before Star Wars, because people have seen the movie Dune. They're like, hey, they're using the Jedi mind trick. They're like, this was pretty...
Star Wars is using Dune.
I know, yeah. Star Wars was using sort of Buddhism taken into a sort of wuxia kind of Buddhism, taken into its own sci-fi thing, and it was using stuff from Dune, because Dune was very hard to film, so Dune does, and Lord of the Rings was very hard to film.
Yeah, we'll get
but
to it.
Both of those were kind of I feel like all the fantasy genre everything, writers talk about.
I think people do credit Tolkien with creating conventional medieval fantasy template.
Game of Thrones, A Song of Ice and Fire. I actually really do like those books. George R. R. Martin has been he's talked about, he's look, everyone is influenced by J.R. Tolkien. You can't not be influenced by him. And there's some stuff that I really like from Lord of the Rings, and there's some other stuff where I'm interested in something else, and he's more interested in historical fantasy than just high fantasy.
Right.
So that's why with Game of Thrones you get a lot of logistics things. That's where you get stuff that you don't get so much in Lord of the Rings, is you get some things that kind of remind you of, at least from the books, that kind of remind you of like epic poems. Like, how, I don't know why in epic poems it's a thing to have like lists of they're just like, hey, here's everything we're bringing with us, and then just a whole list of like,
right.
I'm like, okay, I don't need to know what's in your caravan, like, Yep.
So me and the source material, I think my first memory is like, it's like elementary school. I remember going to the video store when that was still a thing, and going to the kids section and seeing the box for an animated movie called The Hobbit, which that term stuck with me because I'd never heard of the word Hobbit before. And then later,
I think I had heard it when, talked about if you're just.
I'm talking, but I was like 7. This was really early.
I think I had heard on sitcoms people being like, "You're a Hobbit," as a short person.
You're a Hobbit. But it was a little while later where I learned one way or another. Oh, that's a book, and there's actually.
I might have known about the book because I think my dad had it and my brother had read it. So yeah, I did know about The Hobbit. And
then I did start hearing rumblings, and this is before I'm pretty sure this was before I heard that they were doing movies. That The Hobbit has a sequel trilogy called Lord of the Rings, which is more epic in tone and stuff like that. And eventually, in like the late '90s, maybe my mom got it for me, maybe I wanted it, but I got a copy of the Hobbit book, and I distinctly remember. I think I tried finding it recently, but it might be gone from a move or something. But it was like a larger than usual paperback with like a big yellow cover and these full page, really nice painted illustrations. Like one of Smaug on his treasure hoard, one of the goblins in the cave.
Oh wow!
And it was. I really liked that book. It was a cool adventure. It was well paced and well told. It was fun. It had moments of, seriousness, like we lost Thorin and stuff like that. But it was just a cool adventure.
It was a really cool adventure.
Medieval adventure. And so a year or two later, I was in elementary school, and I saw that on the bookshelf in my classroom they had Fellowship of the Ring, and I read on the cover, okay, this is the sequel to the Hobbit. Let's try reading it. I tapped out real fast.
It's funny because like the George R.L. Tolkien's publisher had such a headache because he wrote The Hobbit, and then
originally I think it was a bedtime story for his kids that he adapted.
Well, I know he started writing the first couple in a hole in the ground, lived a hobbit, the very beginning lines.
Hey, Cleo.
Yeah, hello, little podcast cat. I think he started writing it on the back of a student's paper that he was grading.
Wow.
He was just bored.
Students like, you owe me royalties.
I'd just be like, so teacher, did you even look at? You clearly were not paying attention.
You're fired.
My education's on the line here. But the publisher was kind of like, The Hobbit did great. I'm interested in anything else you have. He came back with this thing that was a million pages and so much more. The Hobbit was here, from point A to point B.
And I guess for Lord of the Rings, he went wild. He let loose.
He went buck wild, and it had this it wasn't it wasn't really the Silmarillion, but it had all this lore and The Hobbit. Kids could follow it, and the publisher was like, why couldn't you just do what I asked?
Why couldn't you just make another Hobbit?
I know, because
The Hobbit isn't as concerned with the wide world.
Yeah.
It's not as much, it doesn't have as much in the way of appendices and little
oh my god, yeah,
notes.
the appendices, yeah. And the thing is, and another thing is, it wasn't 3 books. It was, no. It was just, he came back, he's like, this is all my material. And there's, the publisher's yeah, there's, physically, there's no way to sell this.
And yet they did.
No, but no, there's no way to sell it as it was.
Oh,
he could
split
not
it,
have,
split it in 3.
He's like, do you want us to print something that is
the size of a phone book?
No, it would be much bigger than a phone book.
Jesus.
It would be those. If you've ever seen a picture of that female scientist standing next to the handwritten calculations that were used for one of the space outings or something, the stack of papers is as tall as her.
Wow.
All of the arithmetic that went into it. It'd be kind of like that. They're like, so you want us to print something like that? Do you want people to buy that?
You want it to be reasonably priced?
Yeah, and it's that's gonna be something and they'd be that'd be as much as buying a car.
Split it up.
Yeah, so they're Tolkien didn't really like the idea, but they had to. They're
the last laugh was on Tolkien because they went on to define a whole genre.
Yeah. Also, I remember a big Tolkien expert being like, I don't know why they named Return of the King Return of the King. It kind of gives away the ending.
I love it. Well, they could have called it The Ring Gets Tossed into the Fire or something. Not as epic. But yeah, so so for me, it's like, and I actually tried reading Fellowship again after seeing Fellowship the movie and rekindling my interest in this whole property, and I still tapped out. I was older. I was like 14 or 15, and I'm still like, I think they were like, these books are not for me, but the way they adapted work. So it's like, I think the Hobbit book is a fun, epic adventure, and I think the Lord of the Rings books are stretched out over long. Flip those, and you have my opinion of the movie versions.
Oh God, no! I can't.
But so when a little more build up, because we don't forget, Jackson was not the first to adapt this material.
You mean like the one
the cartoons
where Boromir would look like
that's
He-Man?
your go-to is Boromir in like tight shorts.
Yep.
So here's the thing: this is weird. I'm going to explain this to you. This one studio did The Hobbit. It was actually the studio who did like Rudolph and Frosty and all those old, but it was 2D. And then a little while later, there's a famous animator named Ralph Bakshi. He is best known for doing a lot of, especially through like the 70s and 80s, going against the grain of animation, doing strictly adult animation. So like realistic figures, sex, drugs, rock and roll, like hard R material. And he was also a fan of Lord of the Rings. And when he built enough clout, he managed to convince them, let's do an adaptation of at least the first 2 books. And then we'll do a sequel if it does well. And so he got to do a movie that crammed Fellowship and Two Towers into like one. I'm not even sure if it's 2 hours. It might be an hour 40 or something.
That's interesting.
And
that's an interesting.
It did okay at the time, and it has its fans, but it was not enough of a hit to adapt the story. So Rankin-Bass, the Hobbit studio, went, well, hey, we'll take our cast and style and make our own Return of the King. So if you try to watch this whole adaptation, you have this middle that's completely different tonally and stylistically, and it's very odd. And I can't speak to the Hobbit and Return of the King stuff. I might like them as an old alternative version if I watch them. I've actually heard a lot of people say like, hey, compared to the Hobbit we got from Peter Jackson, this one's classic.
That means nothing.
But
like all that means is it's not dirt in your eye.
Yeah, but the
I couldn't. Or what does Bully McGuire say?
All right, so I want to show you a clip from the Bakshi version real quick. Would you prefer a Saruman scene or what the Balrog looks like?
I'm interested in what the Balrog looks like.
This clip, it's literally on YouTube called The Unscary Balrog. It's now, one thing I want to tell you first that you'll probably notice that, like, here we have Aragorn, and you'll see how smooth he runs.
That's Aragorn?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, well.
See how smooth, see how it looks live action?
Yeah.
So, for the majority of this movie, and a lot of his work, Bakshi used a technique called rotoscoping, which is kind of like the 2D 70s equivalent of motion capture, where you would trace over the film of a live-action reference actor.
Oh, okay.
And a lot of them looks like it, but it just looks, it distracts me whenever I've seen parts of it.
Didn't he use it? Like, did Disney ever use it or no? Like,
they used it sparingly. I think in like some of the early Princess films for like dances.
When they twirled
yes,
the dress.
but they weren't super reliant on it.
Okay.
Disney has always been more about using reference footage where they'll film some of their the actions and they'll recreate it manually rather than tracing or motion capture. So here you see how the orcs look, where they're these shadows that they like paint teeth onto. You'll see a close up of it in just a second. This is so surreal.
No, this actually looks very, very interesting, like graphically. Like,
I mean, it's almost experimental.
Yeah.
But I don't know if that's what people want. I don't know if I'd want my Lord of the Rings to be experimental. Here's the Balrog. It's just a guy in a costume with big floppy wings.
Wow, he's not that. He's like.
He's maybe
he's
8
a
feet
foot
tall.
Yeah,
it's not the best. Gandalf's outfit is actually pretty similar.
Gandalf looks pretty good.
But I will say the delivery of "You Shall Not Pass" does not hold a candle when we get to it. In fact, this is the whole Gandalf death scene, which we'll talk about, which is one of my favorite parts. And
that's not so bad.
But we see the whole body.
Yeah, no, he's. Why would you be scared? He's a foot taller.
I do like some of these backgrounds. Some of these backgrounds are pretty nice.
Like
there's some pretty stylistic. There is clear work put into this. It's just not my thing.
I find it very interesting.
Maybe you should watch it.
Yeah. No,
there's no Return of the King portion, but this is back and also.
No,
remember,
wait, I'm getting.
Oh, you're still getting giddy.
No, I'm like. I am a secret fire. Flame of Undun.
Okay, well, listen to the delivery of "You Shall Not Pass." It's not as good.
Wow, that was great. No, that was not great.
Wait.
All right. Well,
Not as epic.
well, unfair comparison. He wasn't known that he was gonna go up against Sir Mcauley. Oh no!
Wait, so here's the fall.
No! Okay, that was kind of funny. The whip!
The reaction. They're just like, that's a shame.
Oh! Frodo went like, he closed his eyes.
Frodo's great, like,
Frodo blinked.
So...
Yeah, like, Frodo's reaction's a little more epic.
The music?
Gandalf's a little more epic. Like,
It's
no,
all
I'm
more
talking,
epic.
like,
It's like, but Jackson took whatever was good about this and improved it tenfold. That music with the chorus singer, incredible. But look,
that high. Oh god.
That's like, I was like, I mean, we were going to do some jumping around, but I'm going to say, like, one of my strongest memories of seeing Fellowship was because I had read The Hobbit, and, so I was familiar with and fond of Gandalf. I hadn't read the books. I thought he was gone.
Me too.
And I legit teared up.
Well, I was so confused because I was like, that can't be the end of Gandalf. Gandalf is so I knew Gandalf before I read The Hobbit. Before, I was like, Gandalf, he's a name. Everyone knows Gandalf.
Yeah,
and I was like, did you just murk Gandalf?
In the first book?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm like,
But honestly, even rewatching that scene, I still get emotional because it's so well done.
Oh my, but
like the sound drops out for the most part. You see
dude,
them all outside.
the Balrog is one of my favorite
I'm talking about
ever.
well, the Balrog is amazing.
I remember I saw that.
But like how the characters are responding to Gandalf. That's like, you see like Legolas holding Gimli back. He wants to charge in and fight. You see Legolas just looks confused. The hobbits are all like
confused,
devastated.
which is like.
And Boromir's kind of torn up. Gives him a moment for pity's sake. But Aragorn is being the leader and like we gotta be rational and keep moving.
Yeah, and actually I think that was a good move on Viggo's part. I think Viggo suggested changing the line because I think he's like by nightfall
these hills will be swarming with orcs.
Before that it was like these hills will be fair teaming with orcs, which is
that's Tolkien language.
Yeah, they're like no tame.
But yeah, I guess
I think Peter Jackson did a great job in balancing.
Yeah.
Staying
so
faithful.
let's also talk about because I have one more thing I want to show you. So this director Peter Jackson, he before he was experienced when he did these movies, but he wasn't a big household name of directors.
I don't know how studios know.
He had done like two. I think he did two Hobbit movies. He did is it Heavenly Creatures?
Yeah, he did that
with Kate Winslet, I think, which I heard was a good drama. And one called The Frighteners, which was like a horror comedy with Michael J. Fox, which I think is supposed to be okay at best. To this day, I still have no idea how he walked in this kind of no-name, working man director.
I'm surprised he was wearing shoes if he walked in.
Yeah, and he walked in and was
he
like,
never wears shoes.
I want to do Lord of the Rings, and we're not just going to film the first one and see what happens. We're going to film them all at once.
He didn't say that.
There was negotiations. I think early on, like Harvey Weinstein was like people wanted it to be two movies.
It sucks that his name will forever come up.
He and his brother are in the credits for all three.
I want to erase that.
Maybe there's a fan edit.
Yeah,
we'll get to fan edits.
But the thing is they weren't involved in the production. They paid them to make a working script, and so it was
more about getting funding, like that. Yeah, because that's what they mainly were. They were producers.
But the thing is eventually they just didn't agree. They wanted it to be one movie, and they wanted it to be about Aragorn. And he was desperately like, please let us make it two movies, and let us make it about the actual story. And they're like, no, but at least they didn't do it like Fox did with Firefly, which is like, we'll kill Firefly, but we won't let anyone take it.
If we can't have it, nobody can.
I mean, they could have it. They're like, we don't want it.
They want anybody to have it.
Yeah, they're just like, oh my god. But they're like, so Miramax was like, okay, no, we're not gonna do it. But if you want, you can try selling the script to another studio. And then New Line picked it up. And New Line was, and they were pitching it to New Line, and they were like, please be okay with two movies. And he was like, the guy was like, okay, I'm kind of confused. He's like, this is 3 books, right? He's like, so it's 3 movies. And they were like, they're like,
I know.
It's so much better.
Even the fact that guy thankfully saw that logic.
Yeah.
One Hollywood blockbuster is a huge enough investment and financial gamble. Mm-hmm. And to put in 3 before you even knew how any of them would do.
Yeah.
Yes, this is a big property.
Yeah, that was a big thing at the time. So was Titanic. I mean, I remember Titanic. I remember the rumbling.
James Cameron at least had some clout. This was post-Terminator too.
Yeah, he had clout, but they were like, this is the most expensive thing that has, it was the most expensive.
Same thing with Avatar. I know it's not the most beloved movie, but made a boatload of money when they thought it wouldn't.
They thought
A lot of people did. I think that the studio did see it as risky, but they just like, it's James Cameron, let's do it.
Oh, that's so stupid. I was like, I know it's going to make a lot of money. I wish it kind of made less money because it does not deserve...
Because it's not the greatest movie ever.
No, it doesn't deserve that spot. I can't remember a single character. Maybe the main guy was Sam, or maybe I'm just thinking of the actor.
Sam Worthington.
Yeah.
Jake
like,
Sully, I remember that.
I don't remember. They were blue. Like, it was pretty.
Hey, sequel's finally coming out.
I mean, it was pretty. That was it. Titanic was a great
Titanic's
film.
good.
Like, it was a beautiful disaster film. It was a beautiful romantic, like, film.
Period piece.
I love, like, the little South Park song making fun of how Michael Bay tried to do that with Pearl Harbor.
Pearl Harbor really sucks. A little more than I miss you.
They're just like...
I think that was actually in Team America.
It's like I miss you as much as like Michael Bay missed the point. Like,
yep. But getting back to these
Yeah.
movies, so it's not only crazy that Peter Jackson did this as a nuclear return. If you look,
it was risky.
One of the craziest career trajectories in terms of like what he started out with movies like.
Him and George Miller.
Yeah, George Miller kind of did the opposite because he went from Mad Max to Babe and Happy Feet and then back to Mad Max.
My mom asked me recently, she's like, Mad Max, she's like, what else has he done? And I was like,
and he told her,
Babe.
Happy Feet?
Yeah.
To be fair, the first Babe's pretty good.
My mom, by the way, she was like, don't make fun of me. I know superheroes. I know who Tom Parker is.
That's right. Oh, God. She played herself.
I was like, no, you don't. I don't even know who Tom Parker is.
Does your mom ever listen to this podcast?
She may listen to the Shang-Chi one. She sends it to people.
Has she seen Shang-Chi?
No.
You should show it to her.
I could show her parts of it. She doesn't really watch, like...
But it's pretty isolated, is what I'm saying. But hey, Laura, if you're listening, I think you're awesome, so don't take it personally. I just think this Tom Parker thing is funny.
She's like, don't make fun of me. I know who Tom Parker is. I was like, no, you don't. I don't know who Tom Parker is.
The fact that you said, don't make fun of me means you're going to be made fun of.
Yeah, because, like, I made fun of her the other night for not knowing, like, Bruce Wayne's name or something. And, like, she was like...
But at least she didn't say, like...
But she's like, don't at me.
She didn't say Robert Wayne or something.
No, like, I mean, she was worse than that. Like, Robert Wayne would have been better. Like, I mean... Like,
no, but it's the name of the current actor is what I'm saying.
Tom Parker didn't make any sense. I had to take a second. I was like, who is Tom Parker?
I mean, there are Tom Parkers in the real world, but they are not Spider-Man.
I'm so confused because I was like, okay, something sounds familiar. Anyways, like...
But, no, I've actually seen... Have you seen any... I know the answer to this. You have zero interest in his early gory stuff, right?
Yeah, no, I'm not really into, like, B horror
like
films.
horror comedies, I'd say, was his forte. So I've seen two of them.
Only if they're, like, by Edgar Wright.
Okay, no, these were schlockier.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I really don't like that.
I've seen two. There's one called Bad Taste, which is about like aliens manufacturing human food. Yeah, the cover is one of the aliens flipping you off.
Well, that's fine.
I want to see it someday. Guts. I have seen the two others. His best early film is originally called Brain Dead. It was renamed in the U.S. to Dead Alive.
I heard.
A comedy, like zombie splatter movie.
Yeah.
So good.
Have you seen it?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's my favorite of his early films.
Is that the one where, okay, so in Return of the King, Aragorn, Legolas, and Gimli go into this weird kind of like, they're at a camp, like they're with the like Rohirrim who are going to go help.
Oh, if there's a reference to, I don't know.
No, like there's a location in New Zealand that's like kind of weird, and it's I want to say like it's bony. It looks
Dead Alive is mostly suburbia.
Okay, because there's like they use the location in Lord of the Rings that does show up in one of Peter Jackson's earlier films. It's like it's this very interesting. It's kind of like it looks like a salt kind of desert, almost like Oregon or something. You know, like that was where they eventually found the dead army. But like that sort of white.
Okay, that could be in Bad Taste maybe.
Yeah, it shows up in one of his movies.
Yeah, so Dead Alive. I think I described it to you where the climax is. By the end, the infestation spread. We got a whole house party that's all zombies for the most part. The hero runs outside, comes back in holding a lawnmower, picks it up so the front with the blade, the bottom with the blade is facing outward, and goes, "All right, guys, party's over." And he chains it up, and it's just like a minute of like zombies being splattered through the blades of a lawnmower. It's awesome.
No, and
at one point, a zombie's intestines come to life and like start crawling along the telephone wire. It's actually a really cool effect.
No.
There's also a zombie baby.
Ew, no.
The zombies. Two of the zombies fall in love and have a baby.
Cross.
Oh, you think that's crossing the line? Do you know about Meet?
No, don't.
Meet the Feebles.
No, I don't. I don't want to.
Can I show you a trailer?
No, why? When people like say that crosses the line, that means they don't like that. That means.
Do you know about Meet the Feebles?
I don't want. It sounds. I don't want. No.
It's not a zombie gore movie.
I don't want it.
It is an R-rated Muppets parody.
Okay, but like, no, like.
Just
no, I definitely don't want to see it.
Okay.
I definitely don't want to see it. But like.
Recommend from me, Meet the Feebles.
Like.
There are it's the only movie I can think of with hippo tits.
Okay, see that. Like, I didn't want to know that. I didn't want to hear that. I want, like, like...
It has a frog shooting up heroin.
Okay, no more. I don't want to know more. Hippo tits, no nothing. Let's go back to the beautiful subject. I am wearing right now my fake Elvish ears and my one ring that I got.
Meet the Feebles is on YouTube. You can watch it for free.
Don't you dare mention something with hippo tits next to, like, what is the most sacred thing to me. Like people say, like... okay, like, we live near Washington, D.C. I am a huge Capitals fan, hockey.
Yeah.
Like, and like, I went to their parade.
They're champs a couple years ago.
They are always champs.
Stanley Cup champs.
Yes. But, like, I'm just like, they were. How dare you talk about us like
Sorry, I don't follow sports.
Like, okay, like, the only time I've really, really, really felt, like, unbridled patriotism is about the Capitals.
Sure.
And like, so I've told people, like, the Capitals is my country, Lord of the Rings is my religion.
Sure.
Like, when and that's why, like, I don't like to just turn on Lord of the Rings and watch it.
You have to be invested in the right mood.
It's like going to church. It's like going to church for people who, like, you know, for them going to church.
It's also like for you can't sit down and just watch one of them. You can't just sit down and watch Fellowship.
I can.
Oh, you can, okay.
I mean, I can't marathon. Like, I mean, I love them, but I can't marathon 9 hours.
There are people who do.
No, but I mean, typically, now it's been a while since I've, like, really, like, celebrated Christmas, like, bothered to, like, get my, like, a Christmas tree out. But my Christmas, like, tradition is, like, the whole time, and I'm, like, setting up my Christmas.
Mike cut out. Thanks, Mike. But I was actually saying, because we were talking about, you know, Christmas viewings, but this was kind of a really... We were talking about, like, the DVD... You were talking about all the hours of extras and commentaries.
Okay, on one note, a genuine thank you to, like, New Line Cinema and the Lord of the Rings production for making, like, the best products that have ever been made. And then a sarcastic thank you for ruining for my life. Like, every movie sucks. Like,
that's the downside. Is nothing.
Like, every single thing. I'm like, this fucking sucks. Like, Jesus. Like, oh my God. If you, like... honestly, I feel like memorizing those DVDs is itself kind of like an intro to, like, filmmaking class. Like, they went
in depth.
The commentaries have one track for the writers, one track for pre-production, which is, like, makeup, costuming.
These are commentaries?
Yeah, like the...
Wow, for, like, different groups.
Mm-hmm. And then, like, so that's pre-production. Then one track is, like, during current production, and it's just for the actors. Then there's another one that's current production, but that has stunt people and the people in charge of stunts and the people in charge of, like, scheduling and everything. And then they have another one which is post-production, and that's music and special effects. Like, it's so just, I mean, like, learning about, oh my God, like, the way they did the Balrog, like, just learn, like, just knowing all the beautiful details that go into, like, one of my favorite things is the fell beasts, which are those cool sort of, like, they kind of look like, in Skyrim there's, like, a water dragon. Like, they look like these watery dragons, like the fell beasts. That's what the Nazgul ride.
Oh yeah.
Like, and, like, I think that they're best, like, shown off during Two Towers when they're, like, flying over the dead marshes. Like, I thought they were such an epic looking beast, and they have that epic roar. The animal that is used for their roar is a donkey. Like, and I'm like...
Now that's sound editing for you.
I was just like, are you... What? Like, and they're just like, not the hee-haw part, but if you can get a donkey to
yell.
Like, roar, like, you know, it has, like, a... like. And because it's sort of a unique thing. It's not like a tiger roar, you know. Like, it does have, like, a sort of higher pitch, even though they definitely lowered it.
Yeah.
But, like, you can hear it's almost like a shrillness in the like the fell beast, where it's like,
yeah,
you know, shrieking.
So you speaking to these DVD extras, I wanted to say, like, you youngsters today with all your streaming, you can't comprehend the DVD boom and what that meant for home media.
No, but also like I'm. Do people do behind like special? I
That's
love
the thing. Not
commentaries.
as much.
Like,
not as much.
I don't know.
I miss commentaries being all over the place.
I think you actually
Marvel never barely does any extras, and I would love commentaries on like. Actually, I do think Infinity War and Endgame got them, but it's not a normal. It's like they don't do it for their normal movies.
I know Taika did one for
Ragnarok.
Ragnarok because
Okay.
I've just seen I've seen like subtitles of it because he's so hilarious. Like,
Hey man.
What?
Hey man.
He's so funny, but like, I rented it.
Thor got banned in Saudi Arabia because Korg is gay.
Like one, I like to roll my eyes. Two, I also think that, I mean, like the only reason I really wanted to see the Hunger Games, I think it was like Mockingjay. I can't remember exactly which one it was.
Part 1 or part 2?
I think it was part 1. The only reason I really wanted to see it in theaters was because I was living in China at the time it was banned, and so I was like, well, if I was at home,
because it was like anti-propaganda. So they thought it was propaganda.
Well, yeah, there's a scene where Julianne Moore is like, we will not have people like, the capital rules the provinces.
Yes.
And she's like, we will not be ruled by other people. It was so awkward because I watched it in theaters when I went to vacation in Hong Kong. So it was actually like, you could feel it in the theater. Everyone was like kind of like, really, because Hong Kong is being, that's happening to Hong Kong at the moment.
Yeah.
Like, it was a very... unreal experience.
Well, actually, I do want to bring up, because when you got to remember, especially if you're too young to remember this,
You youngins.
Fellowship
Younglings.
came out at a very strange time, 2 months after 9/11.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Some people wanted the sequel's name changed.
Yeah, there was consideration to change the Two Towers name, which thankfully didn't happen, because I don't think that was...
I mean, luckily it wasn't called the Twin Towers. Like,
that would have been... Maybe that would... I could understand that.
Yeah.
But Two Towers, it's just different enough. So it was kind of like a good time when people were scared of terror attacks and that anthrax mail scare, and it was... I remember I was not in a good state during that whole initial war on terror phase post 9/11, but people look... It's kind of the same thing happened with the pandemic. People look to escapism more than ever.
Yeah,
and
actually it has a beautiful... Like, it really has, like...
It had a timely kind of... like message of hope to it, and
it's
fighting
all
for
about,
what's right.
It's literally about hope. Like, the ring kind of represents, like, losing hope.
And
like,
corruption and temptation.
Corruption.
A lot
like,
of things.
and like, how... like Frodo and Sam, like things start getting more intense with them. Like the longer Frodo's wearing the ring,
he starts lashing out.
I feel like J.K. Rowling was a little influenced this with her writing about the Horcrux, but I don't know. Maybe she wasn't. But like, because like like in Harry Potter when they were wearing the Horcrux around their neck, like they couldn't feel happiness or whatever, and when they would like lift it off, then it was kind of like
a curse removed.
Yeah, like just feeling like, oh, I was in a really bad mood because like I couldn't feel happiness for a second, and the Frodo gets more and more like that, and it's just like, it was a lot of it was inspired by World War I, which Tolkien like fought in, and one like.
And didn't they come out during World War II, or The Hobbit was pre-war? It was like right around the start of World War II.
Yeah. Like,
I'm gonna pull it up on my phone. 1 sec.
It was in the 40s, but I'm bad with like actual timelines. But yeah, Tolkien fought in World War I, and what a war about like hopelessness, like with being in the trenches. Like he was in a writers group in Cambridge, and like, oh my God, was it Cambridge or Oxford? And people will like
the Lord of the Rings the books weren't till the 50s. Big gap. Mm-hmm. I just know Hobbit was that because of the of Bucky's quote. Remember?
Yeah.
Because I read The Hobbit in 1939 when it came out.
Maybe World War II was part of that.
Pause.
Yeah.
Yeah, or maybe he was writing about different stuff, because I'm sure he wrote other non-Middle-earth stuff that's just not as well known.
He was writing about the Silmarillion stuff, but that also, publishing-wise, that might have, like...
Put a pause on things, like,
yeah,
we gotta do some pro-propaganda
if you're under
stuff.
The Blitz, like...
Yeah, or if you're scrambling to get soldiers and supplies.
Yeah, if you're, like, in England,
higher priorities,
being attacked by Germany. Like,
that's right, it's in England, it's not the U.S. Yeah, shit. I do have 2 notes here about...
Oh, no, actually, it is in England, and that's an important thing, because in America, we don't really have the relationship between Frodo and Sam. It's like the relationship between, like, an officer and his Batman. Like...
Right. So in the U.S., it became, like, the biggest gay joke of the 2000s.
And even if... Like, I could see that either way, but, like, it is a relationship that there's just, like, not an equivalent... that, like, at least language-wise, that we have in the States. Like,
there's camaraderie.
Yeah, like, a real camaraderie between, like, an officer and, like, they're like serving like, you know, like aide de camp or something. Like, I don't know. I had like a really good rapport with my first boss. Not like I was her Sam, but like I could see how like a really good relationship like that could, you know, it's very interesting because it could be such an important relationship, but it's one that we just don't really have like a word for, you know? Like,
yeah. So one thing I was getting at when we talk about the DVD stuff and that the period it came out, I got looking back, like the late 90s and early 2000s were like such a defining moment for Warner Brothers as a studio. Because let's look at it. I think it's 1999 The Matrix comes out. We have a little gap. And then I believe it's November 2001 Fellowship comes out. December 2001 First Harry Potter comes out. So it's just like all these tentpoles just starting up at like, I mean, yeah, you can talk about the Matrix sequels, not as successful as those other two turned out, but like
still nothing will beat the fact.
But that
the
first
Matrix
one
out.
the first one is going to be like remembered forever.
Yeah, I mean, like I think The Sixth Sense will be remembered forever in a quieter way, but like
Good movie,
very good movie, incredible.
So is Unbreakable. Actually, I'm in the camp that his first two big movies, that Shyamalan's first two movies were both really good, and then something happened.
No, but also like The Sixth Sense was kind of like, I think people now watch it and they can guess the reveal. But
well, it's such a famous. I had it spoiled before I even saw the movie.
I had it spoiled, but the thing is like.
But I still thought it was the right movie.
But I had it spoiled, but back then it wasn't. I think now people are more prepared, like because Sixth Sense has entered pop culture, like stuff like that people are prepared for twist endings. But like I even had it spoiled for me by a classmate. I
Same.
saw it, and then I was like, oh, she lied. No, he's alive.
He's talking to his wife.
No, I was just like, oh no,
He's right there.
I was like, he gets shot, and then I was like, oh no, she lied. Like, and I can't believe it. I honestly can't believe that I was just like, oh, Monica was just trying to like mess with me. He's fine. Like, and I was shocked at the ending. I was like, what do you mean? Even though it had been spoiled for me. And like when I rewatch it, that scene, is it Haley
Joel Osment?
Haley Joel Osment.
Sorta.
He's like, I see dead people. Looks at Bruce Willis. Like they're walking around like regular
They
people.
don't know they're
Looks
dead.
at Bruce Willis.
Yeah.
They don't know they're dead. Looks at Bruce Willis. And I was like, and I'm watching it like, yeah, what else? Like, and I was spoiled, and I still didn't get it.
That's
like
funny.
That's how much like we were not conditioned as an audience to expect.
I have a
that.
few more notes about the release and production, and then I think we should dive into these movies themselves. So I guess like the contingent, I talked about like it being crazy that they greenlit all three of these to be filmed. There was
Yeah, it kind of reminds me of Lost. Like Lost was the most expensive pilot greenlit.
Oh, okay.
They immediately fired the guy who greenlit it, and then it made ABC tons of money.
Yeah, I hope that guy got reimbursed or something.
I
Knowing business, probably not.
Yeah, I know, yeah.
But no, they did have a contingency plan, which was if the first one, if Fellowship underwhelmed or flopped, because they didn't do all the post-production at once, all the CG, all the editing.
They couldn't. They were. It was almost like a TV. You know how like TVs go like week by week.
Yeah,
like,
they were on schedule.
They were
Crunching.
They were crunching. They thought Fellowship was hard. Then they thought Two Towers was even harder.
Yep.
Each time they were like, oh my god.
Because Fellowship is probably like the smallest in scale.
I
when
know.
You look at where those battles go. But one of the caveats they said was, okay, look, if Fellowship isn't a hit, we're going to slash the effects budget for the other two. So Gollum and these isles and stuff will not look as good.
Oh man.
And maybe in a parallel world, it would like if it does this bad, we'll just put it straight to video or something.
But
I would say I can't see a world where they just don't release it, but WB just canceled Batgirl, so who knows?
That's the thing. It's like I always just
different leadership though.
I'm not totally like clear on like following studios, kind of like following like sports teams. I'm like
they make weird decisions.
No, I'm just like I kind of like who's who. I just think of New Line Cinema. Is New Line Cinema like a portion of WB?
They are. I don't even know if they're still their own company at this point, but yeah, for a while they have been. Definitely when Lord of the Rings came out, they were owned by WB.
Okay, I just like because I don't think you see that
Logo?
WB like I don't think that.
That's the Final Fantasy victory music.
Whoops, damn it. What is that? Like Scott Pilgrim has like a Nintendo
Universal.
version of it. Oh, is that? I'm thinking of Universal. Damn it.
Do,
Okay.
do, do, do.
Yeah. I'm thinking of like those trumpets.
WB, I think back then had the do 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 do. It was very peaceful.
Okay.
Maybe that was just for video though. I don't remember.
Maybe that did happen before it. Like, I do remember that beautiful like once the screen goes
You
black
said this.
and that New Line Cinema thing.
But they're
it's
playing
like,
they're playing
it's
custom
too much.
music.
It's too much in my heart and I can't.
So I want to talk about one of the impacts that one of the filmmaking impacts it's had on the industry was big advancements, and this has already started to become a big thing throughout the 90s, but like I feel like looking back, like this was the part where we went, oh, we can make CG look really good.
That's what so many directors have said. Cameron said it. I think Spielberg said it. Cameron, like, he thought, okay, I can finally do Avatar when he saw Gollum. So many people saw Gollum, and that meant something. Like, they were like, okay, I can tell a story that... Like,
and that happened because they were given the budget, because they the first one was it.
What?
That's why you don't really see Gollum in the first one. They were like, you can't make that...
He looks a little different.
Well, he's in the shadows, too. You don't get to look at his face, like his eyes and his hands.
And even when you see him,
he looks different. Yeah, he doesn't look as good. And they were like, you want to do a proper Gollum? Make some money first.
Also, like, we have to... Like, we're still working on it. Like, you know, the Fellowship, were like... You know, they were doing the music and stuff, but like while the Fellowship was like coming out, they were still like, okay.
I thought you were going to say we got to give some credit to Andy Serkis, because we do.
No, we do, but like they were still trying to figure it out. Like even if they had like literally like they would reshoot scenes because they figured out a better way to do it. You know, like with Andy Serkis, it was really I kind of felt bad for him when he started because. One, he felt like his performances weren't really like meaning anything because they would do like 2 takes, one with him in it, and like
one without,
and then one without, and the one without was going to be the one that was used
to edit.
Yeah, and then they were just going to use the one with him, and he was just going to be more like of an inspiration thing. Like eventually, that they started using the thing that actually tracks his
ping pong
but
balls.
Like you know, they had to come up with all this stuff. Like I actually remember like a couple like some behind the scenes of them doing tests and just seeing if they could get like a person to like T-pose, and then you know like
I'm glad that you know what T-posing is. That's an animation thing.
But they were like, it was like that's like they're like there's a person T-posing and like there's a person like sitting down, like just seeing if like it was a stick figure, you know, and then it getting more and more complex. Like
I've done a little bit of 3D models. You typically start with the skeleton, the armature they call it.
That
governs the movement for everything, and like puppet.
Like that's how they did all the like the beasts. Like you know they have a cave troll. Like they would start with like. You know they I forget the word. I don't want to say like demonologist or something, but you know they have like all the concept artists, and some of them were like
concept artists.
Well, like some of them were dedicated to like the creatures, and like they had they also like study
some for like clothing, some for environments. They specialize in specific stuff.
I forget one guy specifically like he loved doing all the evil armor, and then like a lot of like
very iconic. I still love Sauron's like helmet. Like how his face is totally obscured.
Yeah.
He's just, but it's just like Darth Vader. It's very menacing.
It's very like satanic kind of like.
It looks unearthly. Like other unnatural and just unfriendly. All the spikes.
John Howell, I think that's the name. I think it's John Howell and Alan Lee.
Those 2 painters that they hired?
John Howell's one of they have 2 main concept artists, and John Howell's like sort of the secondary one. But oh my god, like it's ridiculous. He's actually like he owns his own medieval
That's dedication.
He owns his own medieval armor. So like he did a lot of the like the Elvish armor and like Gondorian armor and stuff. I forgot they hired like a smith in Wellington, but he was like an actual like medieval swordsman.
Authentic.
Yeah, and they're like, okay, there's a guy who makes swords in Wellington. Let's hire him.
Yeah, you should.
And then like he and John Howell would be like out in the parking lot, like fighting each other with swords in their like medieval armor, and like I think Tanya, the wife of Richard Taylor, so she's like she's the other head of What a Workshops. Like What a Workshops is where all this stuff would be happening.
They had CG. They do other stuff too. They were the main guys for Avatar. I think they've helped with some Marvel stuff. They're prolific. Look them up.
And this was like a huge.
This made them.
Like it had like just listening to the stories, like they had to figure out like okay how the hell are we gonna do this? But also just like her being like looking out the window and being like, what the why is our like main concept artist out there like swords fighting? Like you could hurt your fingers and she'd be like she's like
that's a thing that animators do. We talked about me and Ben Reynolds talked about Isaacin, which is an anime about girls making anime, and one of them who does like the character animation takes out like a plastic sword and practices fighting poses with it to get a sense of the movement.
Yeah.
That's true too.
No, but that's just because they're so nerdy and they love medieval stuff.
Oh, yeah. Well, this show the nerdy
John
too.
Howe actually was sounding really bitter because apparently it was like really hard for him to get his medieval weaponry through customs.
Yeah, I bet. And this is pre 9/11.
He's like,
so
hey man, this is my Morning Star and I need it.
This is for work. This is research.
No, like literally the whole of New Zealand. Honestly, it was such a huge production.
Yeah, I bet they've probably never seen anything on this scale for them.
Like, it's so funny.
And man, it's lucky. They're lucky that. So, from what I understand, Peter Jackson is like a genuine huge geek for those Tolkien's work. So
no, that's like, why he did it. Like he wasn't.
It wasn't
like,
a contract thing. He was the one wanting to make it.
You know what? That's one of the reasons why it is actually good. You know what? Like
there's passion to it.
There's passion to it. That's what you need.
And there's knowledge.
Dennis Villeneuve, is that how you say it?
Yeah, the Dune guy, same thing.
He likes Dune, and like sometimes I'll watch something and I'll be like, why did you have to make it suck? Would it be
Why'd
that
you get
hard?
that person?
Like, would it be that hard to do a good job? But like when you get somebody who really cares about what they're doing, like Edgar Wright, you can tell he cares.
He cares about every one of his movies.
Yeah, and that's why it just like it makes it so
like
much.
I haven't seen Last Night at Soho, but I've heard mixed things, but none of them are saying, oh, it feels half-assed.
I know, but yeah, that's the thing. It's like like Michael Bay kind of shit.
Prime example, him in Transformers, yeah.
I'm like getting heartburn thinking about it, just being like mad. But when you it's just like when you get somebody who really cares about it, like this is why I was really like a little betrayed with The Hobbit. Yeah. But and it's a sore subject, and I don't want to go over it that much.
We're going to.
But no, but that's why you're just like with Lord of the Rings, you're like, oh, like this was a passion project for everyone. Like they put so much, like the fact, there's just like I can't really summarize how many hours of work went
years of work.
Like I mean, they started making the Shire over a year before the filming. Yeah. That's why by the time filming happened, the little road paths were kind of worn because production had to use them to bring in and they had to make sure that the flowers were growing and and that was a bustling little city for that talk about detail and and the fabric it's so easy for things to look kind of cheap. I think something that's kind of noticeable it's not really noticeable why it's kind of CGI with it's really hard to CGI a human because we're so good
We're still not there yet. Yeah. I saw Rogue One.
We're just we're really good at recognizing human faces.
It's the eyes.
Well, I mean, it's just one thing, one reason why there's so many ghost stories about a tree that has a spirit in it or something is because we see human faces.
Yeah, Man in the Moon.
Yeah, I mean, if we can know over 500 people and be able to differentiate them, that means we're we're freakishly good at recognizing the human face, and so it's really hard to beat that with electronics or something. But there's something hard to capture. But sometimes with movies, they're making a whole new world or whatever. But I'm just it looks a little new, and it's kind of hard to put your eye to just be but you're this looks like a movie set. It looks new. It looks very fresh. Oh,
it's too clean.
Yeah, it's a little too clean.
Yeah, Middle Earth looks lived in. It looks naturalistic.
And they worked on that. So much went into that.
I noticed it. The Mines of Moria when they're at the tomb and Gandalf pries that tome from this dwarf skeleton. And it's dusty. It's musty. It's old. It's it's authentic.
Oh man, I love everything. I think it was Bernard Hill who was the captain in Titanic. He's not Éomer, Theoden.
Right. Yes.
And he was saying he was getting put into his
armor.
Yeah, his war armor, and he was given his shield, and he noticed that inside his shield, that because horses are so important to the culture of the Rohirrim, because they're kind of like Vikings.
The riders of Rohan, they literally ride.
Yeah, and that's how that they're so dependent on horses that they would kind of not deify them, but sort of venerate them a little bit, because they're such an important part of their culture.
Yeah.
And he was putting on his shield, and there was an etching of a horse just inside the shield, and he was no one's ever going to see this except me. And he's but it made me feel like more like a king when I put it on.
It helped him get more in character.
Yeah, and it's just like, and you know,
smart move.
And they have to, you kind of have to do things like that. You kind of can't cut corners, even though like it's inside his shield. But I don't know, maybe when he's fighting like the Witch King and it gets knocked over, like maybe it's like, maybe we would have seen like a perfectly clean plastic thing and it would have like taken you out for a second, you know, like.
I wouldn't have noticed.
No, like, I mean, if there's something that's like plastic and shiny.
Oh, too
you know,
perfect.
Yeah, that's
Yes.
just like completely like
unmarred.
Because like you think you wouldn't notice, but all the other leather, like you know, all their armor, that has actually been purposely
It's not
weathered
armor,
down.
but you were showing me that video of the main costume lady talking about Saruman's robe and how it's starting to show signs of weathering and fading because he's old, he's a veteran.
She's like, it wouldn't be new. She's like, you can start to see where it's becoming a little threadbare. Like she has her dyers like to get an aged effect, not to just be like, hey, here's a beautiful like Mr. Clean, bright white Saruman who's just like shining off, like he's too bright for the camera. Like it's white, but they would just dye it again and again and again and again, and that and it like weathers it.
Also, Christopher Lee.
It was his life ambition to be in a Lord of the Rings movie.
Wait, really?
Yeah.
This was a dream come true for him? I didn't know that.
He's like fluent in black speech.
But he was a fan. He was a Tolkien fan.
He was a huge Tolkien fan. Really good at the languages, you know.
Good
like,
for him.
He's also a World War.
I feel like the MVP for me of these Middle Earth movies, like Ian McKellen was born to be Gandalf.
There's a great scene.
I know you could argue about Magneto, but for me, it's always going to be about Gandalf.
Oh yeah, no, I mean like Gandalf is. I mean Magneto's great, but Gandalf has
such a presence to him.
Gandalf, he's iconic.
And so much, like just watching him in these movies, like the amount of acting he just does with his face alone.
You should watch his masterclass on acting from the British show Extras. He explains how he did such an amazing job as Gandalf. It's amazing.
I know Extras is like taking the piss out of all these actors.
Yeah,
so I'd like to see that.
So basically, he's and you know what? It's so funny because Ian McKellen, for Extras, they had like a little side interview. He's like I never make mistakes. He's like until today, because he kept laughing during the while he was trying, because he was like kind of talking to Ricky Gervais' character, and he's like, how do I act so well? And he's like, Peter Jackson comes to me and he says, I want you to play a wizard, and I say, I am not a wizard. And like it goes on and he explains how he becomes
a wizard.
Yeah, but like
it is nice, that video we watched again about the costume where they were like going through so many iterations of Gandalf's costume and they weren't sure, Ian McKellen wasn't sure, and then the day that they had him come on and do the robe, and the moment they put on the hat, they were like, it was like a light switch. Everybody was just like, oh my god, Gandalf's in the room.
Yeah, she was like, even Ian McKellen had to.
Even he was like, oh.
I know, she was like, she did a nice little impression of him where he looks at things and he's like, like, you know, like, but there's a nice behind the scenes that, like, in his trailer where he was like, he's like, I'm in like stage 3 of getting into my costume.
Yeah, but I was just saying about Christopher Lee, I think part of it is because I'm not that familiar with his filmography outside of Lord of the Rings and unfortunately the prequels.
Ian McKellen said he's like I have great respect for Christopher Lee. I haven't seen all his films. I think he's done over 200. Like
he did a lot. Yeah, I think he did a lot of dramas. He actually was a pretty iconic Dracula, I think, in the 50s and 60s. So maybe I'll see those someday. But man, that dude's voice, like, what a one of a kind, like authoritative voice. You would listen to, you would take commands from that man.
No, like you know, I feel like Saruman
like Gandalf
gets
could
a
be
lot
like your
of power
warm. Gandalf
from him.
sounds like your warm grandfather type. Saruman sounds like, yes sir, I don't want to piss you off. Okay.
I feel like he gets power from his voice. Like I thought it was pretty epic.
I'm sure it was part of the reason they cast him.
I'm so glad that one he deserves it, but also like he was so happy, like, and there's a little part where like, you know, like one ring to rule them all, one ring to find them, one ring to bring them all, and the darkness bind them. And like in the behind the scenes, he's like no, like it's important that it's like one ring to rule, and then he starts with like Ashnaskun Braguru, like Ashna, and he's like going to, I'm like okay, Christopher Lee,
I want to
like,
show you. Don't worry, this is not a Peter Jackson early movie. I want to show you another backseat clip. Have you ever seen what Saruman was like in that version?
Wait, like, you know, I thought was so great in the Fellowship of the Ring is like
all of it.
Yeah, true. Like all of it and more. Like, I would just sit there crying through the credits, being like,
"That's what would happen if you marathon. You just cry for 9 hours. You'd be dehydrated.
Yeah. Like,
what was cool?
Oh, so they were trying to go through like the like pass of Kilatras or something like that, instead of going through the mines of Moria.
Yes, where the blizzard.
Yeah, and like,
Saruman's
Saruman's trying to just like
avalanches.
sabotage them, like a little, you know. I'm just like, he has like FOMO, like fear of being left out or something. Like,
Saruman does?
Yeah, he's trying
Gandalf,
to ruin
invite me.
He's trying to ruin the party for everyone, and like so and then like you can hear like an echo of his voice, and then like it hits the mountain, and like that's when the snow falls on them.
Yeah.
And I always totally believed that moment because like his voice carries that kind of power.
His voice could cause avalanches.
Yeah, no, it's just like I love the sound design was epic, the way it kind of like echoed, because like he's like in Isengard.
Yeah, he's on top of his tower,
Yeah.
arms spread wide,
And then
like
you
Noah or something.
hear it kind of like being carried over through the wind, and then you hear it like kind of like almost in like like in a way that is like the magic is evoking this, like,
yes.
and then it sort of like smacks the mountain and it crashes down on them. Oh my god! And the cast hated filming that. They were burning. It was like so hot. It was fake snow. Like
they were all bundled up.
Yeah,
Sucks.
And they were like the snow would like get into your esophagus.
Oh yeah, they're covered in it.
Yeah,
and
it's like this weird
material.
Yeah, and they're like, and they were, yeah, they did not.
Okay, I gotta ask you something. I know you like to take notes on like your hands and your palms sometimes. So why do you have Spock written on?
Oh my god! Because we were talking about the Hobbit earlier.
Because are you aware of the Leonard Nimoy song?
Yes, I know it's Spock.
That's what I was going to show you. The Ballad of Bilbo Baggins. We'll get to it.
We were talking about like the Hobbit. I just took pen. I was like Spock. Like I got
Bilbo Baggins, only 3 feet
what
tall.
Oh my god, the 70s. Was
What
everyone
were the
acid?
70s?
Like wait, let's bring that back.
Okay, so can I show you how Saruman sounds in the Bakshi version?
Okay.
It's a less imposing voice. It's also, I don't even know if he says, this is definitely a quote from the book, but where he says something like, instead of this Saruman, you have a Saruman of many colors.
Oh yeah. He like
I don't know if Christopher Lee says that.
no, they were like it would sound silly.
Okay, well this is like, well he'll say it silly.
I remember that was something
and
they changed.
It'll sound silly. So here's, so this high-pitched voice.
You are saying that we should join with Mordor? With him? Does that displease you?
I do like the backgrounds again.
Why do the Black Riders search for it in the Shire? You hidden it there. Would you rather see the Dark Lord have it? Or Sauron of many colors?
Okay, so for those who can't see it, he looked like he's flashing Gandalf. Like he raised his arms in his robe, and like this live-action lens flare shot out of his crotch and across the screen. It's a weird movie, man. And this is all Lord of the Rings fans had for like 30 years.
I remember hearing about because they were like, we decided we were not going to do Sauron in many colors.
Okay, the last thing I'm going to say about this Bakshi version, then we can leave it behind. Peter Jackson actually did acknowledge it as helping him build his interest in Lord of the Rings.
They weren't shitting on it, like you know.
I read he's like, it kind of meanders a bit in the second half, but they did some cool stuff. There were some cool ideas, and he actually lifted 2 shots from it for Fellowship. One is the proud feet with the feet up on the table, and then the whole scene of the hobbits hiding under that stump from the ring race. That's not in the book, but that was Bakshi, and they were like, "That's cool, let's do it."
Yeah, no, exactly. Like they were fans. Like I think they did a great job with what people had already contributed, like concept artists.
Basically, Bakshi walked so Jackson could run, and even though that movie is not my thing, I respect it for helping pave the way.
Yeah, you know, like everyone considered it unfilmable, and like, and so like even
I've actually read. I think at one point they considered, like Kubrick was considering doing it, and he wanted the Beatles to play the Hobbits. Have you heard about this? You just froze.
I just my mind. I just did. My 401. I'm restarting.
Yeah.
Like there's a little like Windows noise.
That gives me vibes of when George Lucas allegedly shot In Sync as some Jedi in the prequels because his daughter liked them.
Okay, like I respect Kubrick, but now I don't know what to think. Like now I don't know where.
I'm gonna look up on my phone to make sure it was Kubrick. There was definitely a Beatles consideration, but I'm wondering if that was just another of like, because it went through. They tried like even before Bakshi, and I think in between him and Jackson to do.
Honestly, I look like someone just removed like the piece of software in my brain that worked.
I think the Beatles thing is the Beatles is a separate attempt from Kubrick.
Okay, because as you were looking it up, I've just been sitting here with my mouth agape.
Because you're a Kubrick fan.
I'm like, Space Odyssey, like what an idiot.
Okay, no.
Like,
He was not an idiot.
I'm like, what do you? I was like, is my whole life a lie? Is Space Odyssey like not deep? Is it just bullshit?
So one last thing I'll say about Christopher Lee. Maybe you know this quote, but I saw this the other day. I guess for the filming the death scene, you have to watch the extended versions to see. Otherwise, he just dies in 3 movies.
I was like, oh, Peter Jackson being Peter Jackson. Stop with your B horror crap.
When Peter Jackson tried to coach Christopher Lee on making a good
I told you this.
dying sound. Oh, okay. Well, I'm going to say it for the audience. Lee said to him, Have you ever slit the throat of a man from behind? Because I have. I know the sound it makes.
Okay, that is not what Peter Jackson said on the commentaries, and I'm glad he made it a little less vague. He was vaguer about it because Christopher Lee was like doing some like
he was a war veteran.
007 Bond
Yeah,
shit.
He was a spy or
he was
wartime.
Yeah,
he did some shit.
He was definitely like some sort of like secret like ops kind of thing. And Peter Jackson was saying, I was going to direct Christopher Lee in this scene, and then he starts talking to me about like, do you know like what this kind of sound like a human being makes when like they're stabbed in the back, and starts getting specifics, and I was like, okay, you know what, less I know the better. You just do what you do. He's like, you do you, man. I was like, he's just like, all right, I'm just gonna stand back here and behind my little console, just say like action and cut.
Okay, so here's something that we've obviously this.
And then wait, Christopher Lee goes on like he's like talking to the cameras. He's like, people think it's an it's not. It's like
people think it's an it's not.
He's like, it's like a release of air. It's I'm just
I want to do Christopher Lee impressions for fun because I can't get as deep as him, but the mannerisms, the mannerisms. No, here's something I want to ask you because look, let's make it very clear. This trilogy means a lot to me. I think it's one of the best film trilogies ever. But this is like your favorite films. That's not bad. That's not good grammar.
It might be
These
my
are
favorite thing.
This is your favorite. So I just got to ask, what was the process like when this was coming out? Were you excited for the lead up to Fellowship, or were you caught off guard?
I was caught off guard. I think did Harry Potter? I can't remember if Harry Potter came out.
Harry Potter came out a month later.
The
Sorcerer's Stone, yes.
Okay, but
that's what I was talking about, like hot streak.
I saw Harry Potter first because I wanted to finish. I was like trying to finish the Fellowship of the Ring. That was never going to happen.
Nope.
Like eventually, I saw another commercial, and I was like, "All right, fuck this." I
meant to ask, what do you think of the Lord of the Rings books? Is it like me, where they're just too long?
I really like The Hobbit. I kept getting like, it was kind. I think there's like, so many people. That's so funny. Like even like super diehard Tolkien fans will be like, okay, look, nobody would structure a book like this. There's parts where there's no rising action. There's
Is this
like
The Hobbit or Lord of the Rings?
Lord of the Rings.
Okay.
They're like, nobody would do this. Like, so nowadays this book would never get published.
Right.
Like they're like the Council of Elrond goes on for like 70 pages. There's people talking, and they're like,
it does not go on for 70 minutes in the movie.
I know. Oh my God, they were like, how are we going to? They were so. They
Cut
were
it down.
Yeah, like Philip Boyens, Fran Walsh. They like went. They would like go into a hotel room and just try and like just
whittle it down.
Just like get like mash out these pages, and it would just get like better and better and better with each script. Like, but like, they were like, yeah, it's kind of a nightmare also to try and think of adapt. It's very, but I mean, it's awesome though. Like, I think something that people really appreciate is like the world building.
Yeah.
And that's where it really came from. Is he kind of wanted, Elvish sounds a lot like.
Did he actually create a language?
Language. He
okay, so Jesus.
I mean, he created like.
I didn't know how much of it was authentic.
No, he created Quenya, Sundari, and he created like different dialects of them. Like.
I wonder how much of like his.
He created black speech. He created like so much. Sorry.
I wonder how much of like his like. He daydreamed in this world, like how much it meant to him. Because I'm like that with my thing, Spacious.
Yeah.
I think about that a lot,
Mm-hmm.
and I wonder if like there are creators that have this one particular passion project of theirs, and his was clearly Lord of the Rings and Middle Earth.
Yeah, no, I think he really likes this mythology. The languages are actually what came to him first, before the
story,
before Sauron, before anything. Like he was a linguist, like. like he would read like Beowulf in like old whatever, like in old English, like he knew old English, like a lot of like the human stuff, like especially Rohan is like Eo, I think, is Old English for horse. So Eomir, Eowyn, like all these names, they have like it's like somebody who's known for their love of horses, or somebody who's known for like being like a really good horse rider. Like it's Old English for that, you know. Like
Also, my dad says hi.
oh, okay, I say hi to your dad. But Elvish languages are kind of close to like Scandinavian languages, which why I think Viggo sounds the best. And I can't even like I love like repeating myself some Elvish lines, but Viggo is so smooth with it.
For reference, Viggo Mortensen, Aragorn.
Oh yeah, Vig, my boy. Like, he's like Danish. Like he speaks Danish, Spanish, and English. And I think because he speaks Danish,
He has a very European sounding name.
yeah, Viggo. I know. Like, but he was like he was like by far the best at Elvish. But like I think it's because it was like kind of inspired by like Scandinavian languages. But Tolkien he was just kind of like he was like kind of like the alphabet is so beautiful and it's really complicated, and it was like funny to hear like Orlando Bloom talking about it. He's like, Elvish is a beautiful language. It is not easy to speak. Like,
see, this is why I wanted Mia on this episode, because I don't have a fraction of the knowledge
like
about this like process.
I always wanted to just like kind of go back in time and coach Orlando Bloom a little bit better on a line delivery he has in Elvish where he's like Naka Daka Thyre, and I'm like, okay, you're starting. That's clearly like you can tell when there's an English person speaking gibberish, and I'd just be like, put the emphasis somewhere else. Say like Nadaka Thyre. That would sound so much better.
What's the name of that Oblivion character you just showed me?
Glarthir.
You will not help me. He's hilarious. That's funny.
Never speak to me about the thing.
And then you can watch, for reference, you can follow this guy, and like there's an optional quest where he'll just go kill people, and it's incredible.
And there's so many different, and like it's so funny to want like
talk to his brother right after he fights, and he's so calm, like, hello, have you met my brother?
I was watching like somebody do a Let's Play, and they were genuinely like, oh no, Glarthir, no! Like,
don't do that.
They were like, oh god.
The one you were showing me, I said, oh no, and then the commentary immediately went, oh no.
I know, he was like, oh no, wait, this doesn't sound right. Glarthir, you're gonna get an axe? Like, don't do it.
Like, this isn't the Elder Scrolls podcast. That was last time. But I did want to ask. So, like, I want to ask you, like, what was the experience like when you first saw Fellowship?
I was like a little. I was so young that I was very immersed in Harry Potter,
Sure.
and I was like, this is just someone trying to rip off Harry Potter.
70 years early.
I was very young, and then I was like, okay, fine, maybe it's not the author, but it's the studios, and I didn't realize like the studios were making the Lord of the Rings like way before they were thinking they were thinking about making a Harry Potter movie.
Before Harry Potter started.
I know, because like I mean the movies, like they filmed them, like the filming took place like so like.
It was like a whole year, right?
Yeah, like I mean, like fans, like for the fans of the books, like they were actually watching it and they were getting like occasional pictures, and they actually changed some stuff. Like Arwen was originally supposed to be in Helm's Deep. I'm glad they changed that. But man, fans reacted badly to images of her, and they're like, "What the?" They're like
in general.
Not at Arwen, but the idea of Arwen being at Helm's Deep.
Oh, because it wasn't faithful.
Like I mean, she has like 2 lines.
And isn't
like,
Eowyn there anyway?
Eowyn is there. And
she's in the cave. I don't remember.
She's in the cave. They did actually have a scene.
Yeah, she suits up in the next movie.
Yeah, she did, like, and I'm glad she took Mary with her. Oh, that was sweet when she was like, be brave, Mary, like, for our friends. Oh, I don't get it, what I can't do. Jesus.
That's all, folks. She's too overwhelmed.
And, Bernard Hill, his, like, oh my God. No, I'm getting emotional.
Do you need a minute?
No.
You don't need a minute, but you're sobbing.
I was like, okay, I was going to say Bernard Hill, he was actually like revving up the stuntmen and the actors, like with he was like, I wanted to act like what I'm supposed to be like, okay, like things don't look great. It doesn't look like we're going to survive this, but we have to like go do the right thing. And he has like that speech to him, but like the going down the line and like knocking their swords with his sword, that was Bernard's idea. And this is only one, this is only possible by the fact that by now they've been going through months and months of like horse ride training and stuff, and also the horses themselves have to be trained in order to like a war horse to not freak out under these circumstances.
Yeah.
Because if you just took a horse and suddenly put them in these circumstances where there's a million other horses, there's like extras and
Bunch of monsters.
yeah, there's like loud noises and all this stuff going on, like they would freak out. So like there's so much work went into this. But like they were saying how like the stuntmen were getting like listening to Bernard Hill, saying like chanting like death, like we're going to like this is the in Return of the King. That they were getting like they were like fired up and they were
For real.
And I can't remember which director it was. It wasn't Peter Jackson. I think it was one of the directors who normally does like battles and like charge scenes.
Yeah.
And he was like, I saw them getting revved up and I was like, Jesus, they're just gonna fucking charge, and I'm actually worried. Like they're gonna charge. I'm gonna be like, remember, this is play. Like don't go slow. Like you gotta be careful.
But
But
so when you
wait, I have to say why I was so emotional, because like how I was saying like Lord of the Rings is like, it came out like after 9/11, and part of it is like it's about hope, like. Emotional. Sorry. But like it's partially based off of Tolkien's like, I mean, recently I watched like 1917, World War One.
Oh, good movie.
Man, trench warfare.
Awful.
Like it's one of the reasons why he hated industrialization, which is like encapsulated in Isengard. Like tearing down the trees, like to make weapons for war and stuff.
Yeah, there's definitely an anti.
There's a pro-environmentalist.
With the Ents.
I mean, he always thought, like, Tolkien actually misread Shakespeare for a second, and he was like, it said, like, the forests of something were, like, coming, I can't, if this was Hamlet, I'm not a Shakespeare person,
either.
but it said something about how, like, the forests were coming, and he was like, Tolkien was like, hell yeah.
You see?
And then I realized it was, like, people wearing, like
trees,
branches to disguise himself, and he was like, what a letdown. That's why he made the Ents. That
was his Ralph Boner.
That really was. He was like, wow, Shakespeare, you failed me. Like, I thought the forest was coming to kick ass, and I was here for it. Like,
hey, Cleo. But yeah,
like,
first seeing this.
No, but like World War One, think about like how hopeless that is.
Yeah.
And like a Tolkien expert was like sort of talking about how the whole message behind, one of the reasons why, even though it is structured so strangely, but one reason why it really stays with people is because it is a good story, and the story is about hope, and like, and some people are like, the enemy is too, it's not an enemy, like, it's not like a character, it's too conceptual, and it's like, like, the point isn't about, it's not like Kill Bill, where, there's like, Bill is the target.
Yeah, that's very clear.
Like, this is about like, it's almost like fear. The enemy is like fear itself.
Well, that's something, something you talk about that. That's something that I used to criticize the movies for. I was like, Sauron isn't really a cohesive, like a solid character. He's not. He's a force.
It's more like.
But then I'm like, you talking about this? I'm like, I think maybe that's the point.
Yeah, because it's more about like.
Like this guy is just like evil incarnate.
The
You're
real
not supposed
enemy is like fear itself.
And people giving up.
Yeah, giving up, and like.
Like you look at Denethor, who's just a spineless.
Yeah, exactly. Denethor and Theoden are meant as foils to each other.
Yeah, because Theoden takes one thing out of Wormtongue, he mans up.
Yeah, well, I mean, he was a little.
By the way, do you know who the actor of Wormtongue is?
Of Denethor? Of what?
No, Wormtongue.
That guy, I know his name.
Brad Dourif.
Yeah, Brad Dourif.
Chucky from Child's Play.
I don't know that.
The Killer Doll?
Oh.
Anyway.
I mean, I know who that is. I just, whenever I see Brad Dourif, I'm like, Wormtongue. Yeah. And poor Brad Dourif, they had to shave his eyebrows. And, like, he also...
He got paid.
Like, he's like a kind of a method actor or whatever, but he's like, he decided to not go back into his Native American accent while he was, like...
I can understand that.
Yeah, because I think
keep practicing.
Yeah, like I think when you like get out of it, that's when like
it's tough to go back in.
Exactly.
Yeah,
but then like Bernard Hill had never heard him speak in an American accent until it was his last day.
So he thought he was.
And then when he was like heard it, he was like, ugh, and he was like, what the hell is that? And he's like, and he sounded like he's doing the worst fake American accent.
I thought he was faking it.
Yeah, he was just like it's so funny. He's like, Bernard thought my accent was fake. Like, he's like so different from Wormtongue.
I've heard people make comparisons to Brad Dourif and Jack Nicholson. Bernard thought it was fake. You know,
How's that Jack?
maybe Chucky. Maybe Chucky's going for a Jack Nicholson. Okay, but
Wait, no, but like Denethor and Theoden, they're foils. Like Denethor, he's faced with hopelessness, like you would be if you were fighting in World War I or something.
and he just like collapses inward, basically.
Yeah, and it's sad. He collapses inward. Theoden, he was going to collapse inward, but he did have some help. Like, one, he fought, but also, two, Gandalf was able to help
Gandalf
him.
came and said, "Snap out of it." And I do love that with Denethor, Gandalf was like, "Fuck it," and just knocked him out.
I mean, he was just like,
Flee!
I was
Flee for your lives!
I was like, I was like, somebody like knock this dude out.
He did.
I know. I was just like,
I'm just remembering. Actually, do you remember when we saw Return of the King with a live orchestra at Wolf Trap? Wasn't that awesome?
That
was an audience cheer moment when.
Oh my
Gandalf
god!
fucked
But I always joked about that moment with my friends. He's just like, my son is dead, and they're like, he's moving, and he's like, he's so dead.
No,
he's like
he's dead.
hacking him.
It's like Holy Grail. I'm not quite dead.
I know. I was like, what is wrong with you, bro? But Theoden, like, his speech to his soldiers, what he's saying when he's saying death, he's saying like, you know, we're not going to make it, but like that's not the point. The point is to, like, even if it's hopeless, like, not to give up. You know, like,
Yeah.
it's not emotional.
Yeah. So it was like a good timing on these to come out as like kind of a help heal and give you some resilience.
Oh, I know. Like,
I don't know what the pandemic equivalent is. I will say I think the most important movie to me of the pandemic is No Way Home. You were with me. You talked about
no,
like,
that was special. That was really special. That was
maybe not about hope, but it was about like celebrating something and being happy about something.
That was about, you know, like, we're joking about like youngings and us feeling old, but that was like a great.
That was a universal moment because like.
No, I mean, I think that was a great I think we were the perfect generation.
Yes,
for that.
we were familiar with. I was familiar with all three.
Yeah, no, I mean, but like we were familiar with all three, but also like meant a lot. You know, like, I mean, like I'm trying to remember. No, X-Men was the first like superhero movie I saw.
Yeah, then Spider-Man came like a year or two later.
Yeah, and then Spider-Man. But I just like, I'm like, this means a lot to me, man. This, like, I can't handle this. Like, this is like.
So okay, so you're let's go back. So you're watching Fellowship for the first time, and so like let's say like what was a moment where something where it really hit you how special this was, or like how did you feel when it was over, or like.
I do feel like people talk about, they say like in Star Wars when in the like A New Hope, like when the Starship Destroyer just
At the beginning,
yeah,
that lower that shot below
like
it.
it comes out of, oh my god, I don't.
You hadn't really seen anything like that.
I don't want to do the geek sin of mixing up like of what is it, warp speed and light speed, like shit.
Oh, warp drive.
I think it's light speed. I think it's warp in
9,
Star Trek,
warp
right?
drive. It's something. I'm not. I'm very novice at Star Trek.
No, but like Star Wars, what is it in Star Wars?
Lightspeed.
Lightspeed. Okay, thank God. Okay, yeah, warp. Yeah, okay, so it's lightspeed. It comes out of lightspeed, and it's just boom, it's there. And like normally ships had just been filmed like a static object in front of a background.
Yeah.
And so like for audiences, I think people were like kind of shook back almost.
Yeah.
Like that was like an image.
I was gonna say I did have a moment with that when Fellowship starts and you get that flashback battle. Oh, you're tearing up just by me saying that, like, because that's the scale and the effects.
Well, that's why I'm saying, like, I'm like, I didn't go through that Star Trek thing. I wasn't born in the 70s. But I remember I remember being a little, like, I don't know, I was like 12 or something. I was in the audience.
I was 14. So maybe you were.
You were 14? I was
2000.
like,
wait, what year were you born?
No. I was definitely in like 8th grade. Well, I don't know. Okay,
You don't
so
know what year you were born?
No, wait, no, like, because Fellowship came out when I was in 8th grade. That's why I was allowed to see it more than a normal person would.
Sure.
I did see Fellowship of the Ring 11 times in theaters, 33 hours. So I'm a little proud of it. I saw the other two less because I was in high school by that point and I had a little less free time.
Busy.
But so like I remember like that. Kate Blanchett's beautiful voice is like you know, like narrating.
The world is changing.
One, the just the beginning lines, like when the whole theater is in darkness, was awesome. But then like when it goes to the battle, like the last alliance of like men and elves, and they're on like the fields of Pelennor, like which becomes like the Dead Marshes, and like and it's the fight with Sauron. And also you'll notice that the elves, like armor there is different. It's supposed to be more springtime, and they're supposed to be more.
It's a different time period too.
Yeah, because this was a lot like I don't know, like 2000.
Elves live really long.
Oh yeah. Elrond's there, and you don't kind of forget until he reminds you later. But when it's showing that battle, and it does this camera movement where it goes over the battling like orcs and elves and men fighting, and it sweeps down a mountain, and this is a fake, there isn't a Mount Doom, and this is a virtual environment with
but you get into it.
But it was like a helicopter drop or something, and I was just like, and I was like, whoa.
Yeah, that's one of my favorite things about 3D environments is the camera you can do. I always think about also like the underground, like Saruman's and the orcs, like caves and mills where they're breeding the Uruk-hai.
Well, like with that drop from all the way down that tower. Fuck! I was damn. That was the fuck that like fire. That was all fire.
Like doom fire. So that was a moment. And then okay. Last question about this. So how did you feel when you got to the end of Fellowship and credits roll? Like, what were you feeling?
A lot of emotions. Like, you know what? It was really special because what I really needed, poor Elijah with his beautiful big blue eyes. He's holding the ring. And I was really glad that Boromir redeemed himself.
Yes.
And
went out like a champ.
Yeah, and Frodo, he doesn't really know what to do at this point. There's how are you supposed to kind of go on alone? And
then Sam shows up.
Well, how are you supposed to go on alone? And how are you supposed to find that energy and the will within yourself? And he recalls I wish the ring had never come to me. I wish that none of this had ever happened. And I was already teary.
What you choose to do in the moment, like people. Yeah.
Sorry, then I heard Gandalf's beautiful voice, and I was like, because I'd missed him by this point, and
because we both thought he was dead.
I know. I mean, and he hadn't been around, and then his soothing voice comes back, and it's so beautiful because when they originally show that scene, it's just filmed normally. He and Frodo talking, but the shot that you see of him,
it's like heavenly illuminated.
It's like heavenly illuminated.
To emphasize that I was
no, but also what he says, he's like, so do all who wish to see such times, but that is not for them to decide. All you have to decide is what to do with this time.
Yeah.
It's given to you.
Me, I can't compare because these are not my favorite piece of media of all time. I do love them, but I will say I was totally kind of caught by surprise. I was not swept up in the hype because I remembered trying to read the books, and I was like, this is different from The Hobbit. It's not going to be that, it wasn't that, but it was in a lot of ways better. And I'll say something that I didn't count on. I was only 14 at the time. I didn't expect Fellowship to scare the shit out of me at several points.
Oh my God.
It's an intense
I kicked
movie.
The chair in front of me with the jump, the
Bilbo?
little jump.
Okay, so I have 3 notes. One and 2 of them still creep me out. When you see the ringwraith's real face,
sorry,
when Frodo puts on the ring against the rings, you see their mummified faces. They look like alien and distorted, and I was like, "This is freaking me out, man." They were already creepy. This is a bit much. And then also, because again, it caught me off guard. Galadriel's ring test, where she freaks out about what would happen. You would have a queen, and these distorted things to her voice. She's this glowing blue. I was like, what the fuck?
She recorded that by saying that speech pretty fast, and then they slowed it down.
Yeah, because her voice gets deeper. And
so she was like, in place of a Dark Lord, you would have a queen. But
she goes from 0 to 100. I'm like, oh.
Yeah, but they showed in the behind the scenes, because they show you everything in the behind the scenes.
I didn't see that.
They'll show you the original recording, and she's just saying it really fast.
And you would have a queen.
She's like, you would have a queen. I didn't. That effect didn't do it for me. The negative, making it kind of like a film negative. I was like, I think you could have found another creative way. To do it.
Bilbo jump scare. That got everyone.
Oh my God, I kicked the chair in front of
because it comes out of nowhere.
I know. You're in Rivendell.
Solemn scene. Everything's chill.
You're in a happy
Bilbo's
place.
just kindly can I see it one more time?
You're in a happy, beautiful, safe, lovely place that is so nice.
Yeah.
And Frodo looks a little
no.
Yeah.
And you think he's gonna be maybe a little upset, and it's like
And the thing is
the way his face distorts.
They perfectly opposite of The Hobbit. They perfectly know when to use CGI. They just know when to do a little I'm just gonna fuck with it just a little bit.
It wouldn't look as scary if it was just Ian Holm being mad.
Yeah, no, like the
fact that it's unnatural.
It's unnatural, but it's also not like he turned into a cartoon.
Which
like,
I remember reading about.
Perfectly combined.
I remember reading about how that scene played out in the book, and it was a hard. I think it was a hard scene for him to translate because it just said something like he put for a second like a shadow dropped, and he didn't think he saw people. He saw a spidery, angry little creature, and it's like you can't have him physically just turn into a monster for 5 seconds. You gotta
kind of do.
But I had like full body.
Yeah.
I mean, like the fact that you can buy that the rings had enough of an effect on him when he was already calling it his precious and stuff, and also like. And actually, I do think this is something The Hobbit enhances. You feel it makes you feel so sad for Bilbo and seeing what's become of him, and then immediately he's remorseful and I'm sorry for everything. And you're just like, oh my God, Bilbo, I want to give him a hug.
I know.
Poor old man.
I know. Like I do feel like
again. I'd also rest in peace, Ian Holm, another great small part, but man, just brings so much character to it.
Yeah, like and that I think the whole audience the first time was like, just like,
yeah. I feel like the other two have scary stuff.
Honestly, I feel like good for like a well-earned jump scare. It's like sometimes they're cheapest, and you're like, oh fuck you.
But that one's effective because they play into the emotion of it.
Like, no, and it's not.
Bilbo's
pointless.
Immediately horrified by what he just did.
It's not pointless. Some like Stranger Things. That sometimes it has good jump scares. Sometimes you're just like, oh, go fuck yourself. Like like you just did that to scare me. But like that was
for me. I always think of because it's a movie that does not rely on jump scares. The original Spider-Man, where Norman Osborn wakes up from his first like rampage. He's walking through his living room, and you just hear like, and the image of the mask flash fills up the screen for a second. I was like, why did you? I know you're a horror director, Sam Raimi, but that's not.
I think I liked that.
It's not that kind of movie.
I kind of liked it. I liked the horror of of it taking over him.
You want to talk horror in Spider-Man 2, the hospital scene where the tentacles mask all the doctors?
That was a little, kind of reminded me of Independence Day.
No, it reminded me of Evil Dead.
Well,
you're watching it. The alien set. Yeah, I guess so. Yeah, you're right.
Like, poor Data. Data got shoved against the...
Release me.
Oh, God. Yeah.
But back to... So...
but, oh, man, it was just, it was just perfect right amount of, well done. Well, I honestly that was
and I will say two things. I feel like Two Towers was lighter on the scares compared to the others.
It was oh God, man. Honestly, I was like, okay, you need rules to run a society. I don't want to be like, we live in a society, but I don't want to go there. But I was just like, really, you're gonna put a helmet on like a 9-year-old boy who can't even see out of that helmet?
Well, that's sad.
Instead of Eowyn,
yeah, that's old timey sexism for you.
I was just like. That boy, the helmet is over his tiny baby
He's gonna
eyes.
fuck things up. He's gonna make things worse.
When I remember the audience being like, what the hell am I seeing when they because those were some pretty shocking visuals. Putting oh my God.
But I will say two things in Return of the King.
Wait, are you just skipping over Two Towers? You don't think
we're going back and forth?
Okay.
No, I'm not. But because there's other stuff to talk about.
Two Towers is actually my favorite.
Okay, cool. I think I'm not sure whether I think Fellowship might be my favorite rewatch.
Two Towers is not most people's favorite.
No, I think it's my least favorite. Even though I still like it.
I freaking
they're all good.
You know what though? I don't like endings. I try to stay as far away as I can from endings.
We'll get to that. But no, Return of the King had. I know the obvious one, but for me, something that always stuck with me is you get Smeagol's origin story, and you get that halfway point between him and Gollum where he's deformed his real makeup, and but it looks so.
You know what though? I could have done without that fish.
Him eating. Oh, it's so gross.
What the.
And it's not as gross, but then you get a Denethor chomping on the grapes and the meat and stuff.
Okay, that was adding to my anxiety because I was already feeling anxiety for Faramir on the battlefield.
And the song.
And man, Billy Boyd, go off!
They actually got him back to sing the last credit song for Battle of the Five Armies.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that.
It's a good song.
I love them. Oh my God, I love them so much. The cast, they're amazing.
Yeah, we haven't really talked about the Hobbits, but for me, the other MVP of this trilogy, and I consider the real hero, is Sam. You look at how much he saves Frodo from this stuff in the last movies. I'm like, this would have gone south if he didn't keep his promise to keep an eye on him and just be this moral compass.
Yeah, no, Sam. Oh, Sam.
And Sean Astin has such a warmth to him.
I know, and honestly, I'm saying, oh, Sam, kind of like Frodo says, oh, Sam.
Oh, Sam.
Also, I remember the Fellowship of the Ring. It was Sam going on the water. Me, literally in the theater, I just my arms went out. I was like, is he gonna die? Why would he die from walking in the water?
Frodo's just oh well.
Frodo's just keeps going. I
And
mean?
actually, it's something that I think might have been like an intentional like fake out in Two Towers when they're in that swamp with the corpses and Frodo falls in. You keep thinking Sam's going to rescue him, Sam's going to rescue him, and it's Gollum.
Yeah, I know, and it's actually because Gollum and Frodo are like
Sort of bonding.
Yeah,
and,
because
and
they're the ring bearers.
And Gollum wants to turn him over, which he fakes Sam eating the bread and stuff. He's like wants to turn him against him.
That they decided I thought that was a good choice. That didn't happen in the books. Like
Him saving him.
Like Gollum never successfully separates them. Like Sam is with him when they're like we wanted Frodo to enter Shelob's lair alone, like because that would be scarier. And also you have like the whole time you have this character Gollum who is trying to like. He's trying to break them up, and he never succeeds. They're like, they wanted a payoff for that.
And I will say, for me, the Gollum scene isn't even him with the hobbits. It's his back and forth nighttime conversation with Gollum and Smeagol.
That was awesome. Is that really? I think that was probably one of the things that really convinced a lot of directors.
Obvious effects.
Yeah.
And again, probably to Andy Serkis, but like, it still creeps me out the way he just leans forward and goes, murder.
And then he's like,
and you feel bad for him.
I know, but the sweet Smeagol's so cute. Smeagol's and he's just so funny too. He's like, no, not just me.
I know. Do you remember? Because I did. My late grandmother Mimi. I had always intended to show her Lord of the Rings, but we did The Hobbit, and then she died before. And you remember what she called Gollum in the Rose in the Dark?
Little creep.
He's like, "Oh, here comes the old creep. He is the world's worst." Man, she would have really in Lord of the Rings. She would have hated him even more.
And he's like, "Go away.
I hate you." And the other obviously scary thing, Shelob.
Oh yeah.
I think her lair is even creepier. Like the build up.
I love the build up. I love the build up.
And then I forgot that Sam goes one-on-one with her and wins.
Yeah.
Like she tries to shank him so much.
But also shout out to that Galadriel giving them and then
the light.
I was like,
very important.
One, I love things like coming back into play, and just just
the mithril and Fellowship because he gets stabbed by the you think oh he's not going to survive two stabs.
I was like, how many times is Frodo going to die in this movie? Because he'd already
he's already coma.
He'd already gotten stabbed by Nazgul.
Yeah.
I was like, God damn it! How can Frodo go 10 minutes without dying?
And then this time he was able to walk it off.
Yeah.
Thanks, Bilbo.
And they're like that would have secured a wild boar or something.
Okay, and I guess this is as good a time as ever to bring up Sexy Shelob.
No, I don't think there's ever a good. For
the uninitiated. There are, I think these games. There are a pair of Middle Earth games, Shadow of Mordor and Shadow of War. I'm pretty sure they were conceived because of The Hobbit coming out because they came out soon after. And I have the first one, and I actually think I'm going to buy the second one on Steam soon because it's on sale for like $10. Are you buying
it for a special reason?
No, I'll get to that. But the first one at least is really cool. It is a midquel set between Hobbit and Lord of the Rings in the movie universe.
What do you play?
It's an original character, like a ranger who gets corrupted with a spirit that he shares with, who has a connection to Sauron, and ends up in Mordor and is kind of like taking down some of the operations there. And Gollum shows up as well as an NPC. I think there might be some other. I think it's not Andy Serkis though. But so what the defining factor they have, like the coolest feature is you'll run into several like orc generals who have like unique names, and you'll have like mini boss fights with them. And if it's possible for them, for either if you lose or if they manage to flee, they have this thing called the Nemesis system where you see a chart of them moving up in the hierarchy.
Oh, that's cool.
And coming back to you with a vengeance.
Oh,
and
I like that.
With a little cutscene of them clashing like, I remember you, and that kind of stuff, like to make it more personal.
That's kind of, that'd be cool for them to
so
add
less
in
cool
general.
is in the sequel where they incorporate Shelob and decide to incorporate some backstory where either she got turned into or she used to be a sexy goth lady, a human. And it's just like, how did you conceive this idea? Why did you think it was a good idea?
And nope.
And it also just feels like fan service, like.
But okay, you need
she's in like a slinky robe.
You need a sexy lady.
Just get an elf.
And your mind went to a spider. You wanted to fuck a spider, like. It's
so strange. I'm like, The Hobbit had bad decisions, but they don't compare to Sexy Shelob.
Like, okay, they show like some of like the bad men, which is like it's pretty racist. They're obvious like from the east, but they're helping. They sort of like augment the armies of like Sauron. Like so they have humans on
Fellowship.
I mean, no, you only really kind of like see them. You see them a bit in Two Towers, but mostly Return of the King.
Okay.
But I'm saying like you have like humans in Sauron's army. Like,
Well, you have Saruman, obviously.
well, he's not a human; he's a wizard.
Oh.
Well, like
Shows what I know.
many colors. Sorry.
A Saruman of many colors, I am flashing you with lens flare. Weird movie.
I forgot my point. Oh yeah, like remember the Mcauley? They tried so hard to make sure the Mcauley didn't remind people too much of elephants because like you wouldn't want to see like our heroes
they have
killing
like multiple tusks and like different proportions.
and they gave them like predator roars, not
elephants.
anything that sounded like an elephant. You
That also gave me one of my favorite moments that only counts as one.
Oh yeah, I love how like mad people got about Legolas like being like just every movie Legolas gotta
He has
have
this
like
shield surfing.
yeah, he got the shield surf like one like oh my like you asked me like how was it like watching these movies and I mentioned like how that like it was like my starship destroyer moment kind of, like but also like Legolas getting off of his horse. Turning around looking at the camera.
His hair blowing in the wind.
That was like, hello, like hello puberty.
Yeah.
Puberty just like it's like a little announcement if it was like
remember
puberty starting.
I remember. Have you ever read the comic strip Foxtrot?
No.
It's a fun comic with a lot of like geek pop culture stuff, and you have like a little brother who's like really into geek culture and is obsessed with these movies, and then his teenage sister just wants to see them to ogle Legolas.
Hey man, you can like be into these movies and want to ogle Legolas. Like who doesn't want to ogle Legolas? Like Jesus, no, Legolas.
I just raised my hand.
Oh my god, when he jumps onto the horse, like
he's handsome. I'm just
Jesus.
I'm into ladies.
Oh my god, like they
But
actually,
I have Arwen and Eowyn, so I'm not complaining.
They did a really clever, like you know, like it just blows my mind. I can't think like Orlando Bloom was like 21 or something.
He was young.
Played Legolas, and I'm just like, how old am I? Am I 40? What's going on? Like I don't understand anymore. But something I did is, you know, like he like what later starred in like Pirates of the Caribbean. As you can see, he's like a brunette. Like. One, they were good. They gave him like the blonde wig, but they shaved his
Forehead.
They wanted to make him have a receding hairline because they were like,
Because he's older.
Yeah, they're like it adds a. I mean, maybe that's one of the reasons why I look at him and I'm like, he's 21. I don't understand. Like, but there's also like makeup going into it that's like supposed to make him look kind of like outside of the idea of age. Like they're young, but they're also old, like they're timeless. You know, like. So, like, yeah, they did a good job. So what they decided to do is, like, they gave him a mohawk, basically, because they were, like...
Oh.
Well, he was like, if you're going to just make me have a receding hairline, just give me a mohawk. Like, you know? Like, but, like, that's how his wig worked.
So, okay, there are two things I want to take. So, I
But
think
there's humans on Sauron's army. Why don't you just make a female... Like, why...
Oh, yeah, going back to Sexy
Shelob. There's options, man. There's options.
But still, pretty good games. So going back to the movies, we talked a lot about Fellowship, obviously. Two Towers. I love the. I think what makes for me is that I think the first half stuff with Theoden pales in comparison to the other stuff.
You know what I love? It completely like I think most of Lord of the Rings graphics like stands up. That might be like you know because I think I asked my mom. I saw like one of those like old versions of Kong or something like King Kong.
Oh, like the stop motion and the puppet.
Yeah, and I was like, Mom, did you think this was like
realistic?
Yeah, and she was like, yeah, and I just like laughed. And I was just like,
and then Peter Jackson. I mean, that's why he made his King Kong. That was the movie that got him into filmmaking.
Oh man, like and Andy Serkis like the expressiveness of it,
Yeah.
like yeah. But like wait.
We were talking about effects, holding up and stuff with like Theoden and
Theoden when Saruman is like exorcised from his body. What I love is that Theoden gets thrown back and it cuts to
Saruman falling
That's
back
a great cut
because they were like possessing him.
Yeah,
and he like rejuvenates from like a decrepit
and
crypt.
He's perfect. It's all captured on screen. Like for him going from an incredibly frail old man to
a handsome middle-aged guy.
Yeah, but like that fade, I always watch it and I'm like, where is it happening? But it's happening, and I can't.
It's good.
It's really good. It was like 3 hours of makeup for 3 different shots, and they like.
Oh, they had a midpoint.
Yeah, like
okay, that makes it easier.
Yeah. Oh, like you know that.
That makes me think about because I'm sure that there was digital morphing going on there, but you ever see Raiders of the Lost Ark?
Is that the one where the faces melt?
Yeah, gory. Freaked me out as like a 9-year-old. But the main face melt, they I think it was stop motion, and they initially went through like several layers of makeup with the actor in place, and had to like transition him out for a dummy over time, and it's just like that effect still is incredible, but it's scary as fuck.
I'm kind of glad. I think I blocked out of my head.
People complain about Temple of Doom, and I'm like, you're not complaining about this?
But I remember seeing Bernard Hill, like he's sort of like, all he's doing is kind of like panting, like he's getting over like a cough or something, but like he did that same performance like in 3 different like makeup things.
Yeah.
And their makeup is like excellent.
Yeah.
That
So,
was beautiful.
here's the thing
and
about-
I love it. And he looks at Eowyn. He's like, I recognize your face.
Right. Here's the thing about Two Towers that I think I remember for years after the movies came out, people kept bringing up 2 words: Helm's Deep. Helm's Deep.
You don't like Helm's Deep?
No, that's why I'm bringing it up. It's incredible.
Oh, well, I mean,
That whole like 3rd act,
dude,
it's so elaborate. It's so multi-staged.
The music, you're just like, oh god.
It's so intense. It's like, it's gritty. The rain, the
yeah.
dirt on the armor, all
and-
these. It escalates with all these weapons, like these big grappling hooks that like hit a guy while they come out and stuff. Like,
honestly, like, so much kudos to all the work that went into that. That like the cast, the crew, they were exhausted. The stuntmen.
they must, yeah.
6 weeks of night shoots.
It took 6 weeks to shoot that portion, yeah.
Yeah, like Viggo lost like a tooth during it.
He also broke some toes.
He broke toes in
Can
grief.
we talk about that part?
His toes were lost to grief.
We watched this video. It's the part where they think Merry and Pippin are lost, are in the corpses, the pile of corpses.
Before that, awesome. I love the way that story is told. Well, he's a ranger, so he can read tracks.
Yeah.
He's like, their bones were cut, like.
Well, this
it
is
was
after.
cutting.
That's after.
But first, they just see a pile of
they
dead
find
bodies.
his belt. They find a belt.
They've been
and they think-
chasing them for
Yeah.
like
yeah,
how many
they're
weeks?
friends, and they find one of the belts, and they think, and Aragorn kicks an orc helmet and does this anguished yell, and
Great acting, beautiful.
So the thing is, Peter Jackson made him do multiple takes, and you can see
he
all the
wanted
takes
the helmet
to get closer to the camera,
Yeah.
like the angle, and the first couple of yells, they were good, but they weren't as. And then on the last, they said, "See, one more." He kicked this helmet the wrong way. Well, he kicked it the right way for the camera, but he broke 2 toes and let out a yell of genuine anguish, and then like collapsed like he was in prayer. Or
yeah,
remorse,
it was so great. Like, it's so great.
Rather than breaking character, going like my fucking toes.
I know. This was before Leo and his bleeding hand. Like he's like, he's like. He yells. He's like, ah, and then it goes like, ah,
yeah, it escalates. When we watched, I was like, it's just like any other. Then it keeps going. It's like, oh, that's pain.
I love it. Like, what's his name? Viggo's great. So during the night shoots for Helm's Deep, at one point he like cracked one of his front teeth. He's like, all right, let's get some glue. We can keep filming. And like Peter Jackson's like, you're insane. You're going to the dentist. Like,
yep.
And they, like strapped him into a helicopter, taking him to the dentist. He's like, no, I want to keep filming. Like,
dedication.
Dedication. Like he went and got emergency dental. He was back on set like later that day. Like,
yeah. So we have any other specific to the Two Towers you want to bring up that we haven't already?
Okay, the trailer for I just remember being
that's your favorite.
Yes,
Is
being
it what you
so
were
hyped.
watching when I got here multiple times?
And then I started
that
like
music.
crying, sobbing.
Oh, you've done that multiple times this podcast alone.
No, but also I think that trailer was. I think that's the trailer that kicked off the popularity of that song. But I don't know. It might have been. I might be talking out of my ass.
I don't know either.
But like they wanted that trailer. I think for. I mean, they wanted a scene in that trailer, and it's in Helm's Deep, and it's like a shot of the miniature of Helm's Deep. They coined the term bigature because they would make miniatures, like they made a miniature of Helm's Deep, but it was big enough that you could walk around in it. Like, so these miniatures would be like, I don't know, 34 feet wide or something. Like, they would be huge, but like Isengard is supposed to be like, I think like 2,000 feet tall or something. It's like an 18th, like it's an insane like scale. But the thing is it's so detailed that they could actually just film it with a camera and use that, like on screen, like right up and like in the big screen. That's incredible. That like it's something that's like like supposed to be like it's like a billionth of the scale, and yet it holds up. But so they had this shot, and the only reason they had this is like they needed this shot for the studio to be like, this is what we're working on for Helm's Deep, you know, because the studio's like, where's our money going? We want to see.
Yeah.
So they were showing them like, here's the bigature for Helm's Deep, and there was a guy in it. He took a little like toy ladder and put it up. He's like, the ladder's gonna come up, and like they're gonna be fighting on either side or whatever. And like then they wanted a trailer, and like Peter Jackson like went to like, I don't know, the special effects people, and he took this plate which like had the dude in it, like the dude like here's where the ladder goes, like not supposed to be used for anything, and he's like, we need this for the trailer shot. and we need it in like 2 weeks or something. And they were like, you weren't kidding me, like, right? And I mean, like, they had to work with so much, like, these poor, like, special effects people.
I do have one other Two Towers memory, and this is something that came from the movie. Are you aware of the Boil 'em Mash 'em meme?
Boil 'em, mash 'em, stick 'em in a stew.
Do you know the song?
Wait a second. I thought Peter Jackson was very good with Helm's Deep in that he was careful not to get battle fatigue. Like, so he would do these, like, occasionally cut to the quietness of, like, the ants, which was kind of, it was irritating. I was like, oh, you fucking ants aren't doing anything. But it is good that you don't get battle fatigue.
Then they do something at the end. It's awesome.
But then it pays off. It pays off in such, actually, that's one of probably...
It's very satisfying.
No, it's not my favorite moment. My favorite moment is Sam's monologue at the end of Two Towers. That's my favorite moment in the entire trilogy. But my favorite musical moment is when the Ents are marching to war. Oh my god, I love it. It's a boys' choir. Howard Shore, amazing.
Yeah, credit to Howard Shore.
Boil 'em, mash 'em, stick 'em in a stew.
Wait, you've seen the music?
Have you seen, like, they're taking the hobbits to Isengard?
Okay,
Did you know that on the set of The Hobbit, Orlando Bloom sang they're taking the hobbits to Isengard?
Okay, I'm not going to play it if you already know it, but maybe I'll add it to some audio to the finished version for those of you who weren't around for the YTMND days.
Yeah, like are you trying to, like, throw Lord of the Rings memes at me? Like, I'm not aware of that.
I wasn't aware how much she did. So,
boil 'em, mash 'em, stick 'em in a stew. Please, I promise.
Potatoes. It does have a beat to it. That's why it works so well.
Boil 'em, mash 'em,
stick 'em in a stew.
But I love they're taking the hobbits to Isengard. I should remember
Isengard, guard.
Yeah, he did that. Like, Orlando Bloom was like, guard.
Good for him.
And they're like dancing. They're like,
do like the synth version.
Oh man.
Okay.
Classic old memes.
So one of the things that I appreciate about Return of the King is that I think it's like one of the strongest and most emotional finales. That's
what I don't appreciate about it. I don't want emotion.
But like,
I can't deal with it.
The last, like, there's just, it builds so much. Like, there's already powerful stuff. I'm talking about, like, when is it Pippin who stays with Denethor and sings to him?
Yeah,
that's
Boyd
already
with his beautiful voice.
That's already intense.
Oh my God, Billy and Mary getting separated. I did the quickly, like, all of a sudden it just happened. Like, and I was like, no.
Yeah, it was weird to see them not as like a unit anymore.
And he was like, Mary, and then like he gets and I was like, no, like, because I don't think Pippin doesn't never realize what's going on. I love one of my favorite moments. He's like, "Where are we going?" Like at the council, they're like,
"Yes, yeah." It's a big dramatic, but they're good for they. Other than Gimli, I think they're the main source of.
Originally, they were gonna have him do they were gonna be like, okay, the hobbits have an English accent, and they were gonna have Billy Boyd do an English accent, and they're like, not tampering down a Scottish accent. It's just wrong. They're like, all right, like just let your Scottishness roam free. You like Brandy Bucks. You're from like kind of it's Marioch Brandy Buck. How dare I say something? Pippin, fucking damn it. Pippin. Oh my God, what's Pippin's last name? I'm gonna fucking die.
I don't know.
It's Marioch Brandy Buck and Peregrine
Took. Fool of a Took.
You Tooks. Okay. So you Tooks, they're like, you live kind of like further away. That's why you speak in a Scottish accent.
There you go. That makes sense.
that all makes sense.
But no, I just feel like that's like one of the strongest last acts to a movie, like that, the last big battle, and just things just reach a boiling point with Gollum and Sam and Frodo, and that last scene in Mount Doom.
That was harsh.
Frodo
to see
the finger.
To see Frodo turn on Sam.
That too. Yeah, it was heartbreaking, and especially because we, the audience, know Gollum is lying to them. You're just like, no, God damn it.
I know, yeah.
And then, but also when Sam falls down and sees the bread, and you see him get that renewed vigor, like, crushes it in his hands, like, let's go.
Yeah, man.
I'm not giving up on Frodo. But another of the, I don't even mention it as much, but like for me, I think one of the big tear-jerking moments. I can't carry it for you, but I can carry you, and the music swells to into the west. And come on, and it's such a like they're so on their last legs, they're so beaten down, but it's just like, I'm getting you.
Don't let go.
Don't you dare let go. Just the camaraderie comes to such a head. And then,
but it was so emotional because like Frodo could have let go, like
he could have, yeah.
It was like
he was spent.
Through,
he lost his finger.
like they just been through like so much. They went through many different filming versions of Elijah and Andy kind of like fighting.
Yeah,
and they're like in some of them. Frodo like clearly throws like Gollum over, and they're like, we didn't want it.
Don't be malicious.
Yeah, no, they were like. You saying "Don't be malicious" makes me think of "Don't be suspicious." Do you know that song?
No.
There's a song called "Don't be suspicious," but like, and I always sing it to myself, but I'm trying not to be suspicious. Like if I'm leaving.
Don't look at me. I'm just not being suspicious.
I'm like, if I go in a grocery store and I'm like, you know what, I didn't want anything, and I'm leaving, I'm like, don't be suspicious. Don't be suspicious as I'm leaving. But like, they're like, I thought they did well. Is that like. It was a real like both of them tumbled. It wasn't like neither like you couldn't put blame really.
Yeah. Yeah, I never even thought about that, but you're right.
Yeah.
But then like the fact that they think they're going to die before the Eagles show up and they're like happy to be with you at the end of all things. And you think you're better, and then you bow to no one, which is such an impactful.
Oh, and Viggo singing. I love Viggo singing. I always love Viggo singing, and he sings in Elvish.
Yep.
There's a lot. The thing is, like, there's a lot of singing in the books, and that's hard to incorporate. And I thought they did a good job.
Yeah, there's a little bit in the movies.
I thought they just did I thought they did the right amount. Like, not.
And then the Hobbit has a full-blown musical number. That's what Bilbo Baggins hates.
Oh, I forgot about that.
They just all do this song on the fly.
I mean, I liked the Dwarvish song, like
Misty Mountains is great.
Yeah.
Yes, but we're almost there. But then just like the fact that the Grey Havens happens, and I just think it's like it's like Frodo saying goodbye to everyone, and then they save Sam for last, and like Sam just breaks down crying and doesn't want to leave.
It's very unfortunate, because I do. I don't know. I think there's a real downside to not being like a quote unquote perfectionist, but like being somebody who's like, oh, but it could have been better, and that scene could have been better. I did feel like when I watched it, I was like, this feels like a little forced, and I'm surprised that it kind of feels forced, like their emotions. And fucking Peter Jackson made them film that scene like 3 times because he ruined the footage for the first 2 times they filmed. They said as a joke, they're like, if there's one thing I never wanted to shoot twice, it was the goodbye scene because of how emotional it was. And the first time they thought they did a great job, but then like
something happens to the film.
The DP like put a filter on it or something that
it looked wrong.
Yeah, and then like the second time, like the footage got lost or whatever, and so like they filmed it 3 fucking times, and I was just like, oh, I really want to see what you captured the first time. I never picked up on that. Like, because like I really want to see what you captured the first time.
And there's even little touches like we see Bilbo again, and like he's noticeably aged without the ring. But then his last line, I think I'm ready to go on one more adventure.
Oh yeah, that's sweet.
That callback to his wandering spirit.
In home. And all just like footstep, like a little, like, what did he say to Frodo? Like,
I would have loved to see that ring one more time.
No, like if you like careful, like putting a foot out the door, like
I remember.
Like you could like, it's a dangerous thing, Frodo, like to put your foot like out the door, like you can get into an adventure or something like that. Like it's very like it's a very cute phrase.
Yeah. So. And so you say like it's hard for you to watch Return of the King because of these goodbyes and stuff.
Yeah, I don't.
I'm just wondering how. I'm just like we're coming up on a conundrum because we've been seeing all these MCU movies together. Black Panther 2 is out in like less than 2 months. Yeah. How are you gonna do it? You can't even watch the trailer, and I'm telling you, it's the best Marvel trailer ever made.
I'll see it, man. Don't push me.
It's gonna be hard for everyone, I think.
That's that Donald Gleason gif of my emotions. Like, leave me my emotions.
So,
it's like I'm in a glass case of emotions.
So, Lord of the Rings. So, Return of the King was an amazing capper. It won so many Oscars.
I love the credits, the
song and the portraits.
I love the portraits. I thought it was beautiful, and I love that they had like Sean Bean. Like
everyone.
Yeah,
Yeah. Sean Bean dying. Is that where the meme started, or is it just,
well, maybe that's where. I mean,
that?
Literally though, like besides, Orlando Bloom was in this. Brad Pitt played Achilles. Troy.
Was Sean Bean in it?
Sean Bean was Odysseus, who was like the only one who survived the battle.
What?
Besides that, he has died in like every.
That sounds oxymoronic.
I know.
But so Return of the King swept the Oscars. This like it cemented its place in history. It was an iconic thing, and then they made The Hobbit.
No.
We
How
need-
dare you transition it
let's-
like that? Don't.
There was a wait, and there was growing. Like, are they going to do it? Do you think they should do it? Here's the thing that I'm always going to wonder. Do you remember who was originally going to direct?
Wasn't Peter?
Guillermo del Toro. Who knows? I mean, who knows what that would have been? I'm sure it would have still been canon, but I would have liked to see his his own different take on it, and maybe he wouldn't have made it 3 movies.
I don't know. I think it might have been a studio thing. I mean, I blame.
It was. He left because of creative differences, and Peter Jackson, I think maybe reluctantly, was like, "Okay, I'll do it."
I think he reluctantly did.
His heart wasn't in it.
I know, and I was not surprised when I heard that. I was thinking, they're not going to ask Viggo to be in it, and are they? Because technically Aragorn is around during this time, and he would be in Rivendell.
Wait, you mean you mean Legolas?
No, I mean Viggo. I was like, they're not going to.
It's 60
I
years
was like,
prior.
they better.
It's 60 years prior. He wouldn't be born.
What are you talking about? He's
The Hobbit?
he's 80 years old in
Who is?
Aragorn. He's 84 years old in Return of the King.
What?
He's one of the he's one of the Elendil. He's he's one of the special group. He's got the blood of.
Okay.
Well,
no,
he's
they
one
didn't
of
ask.
Isildur's.
Okay, well, they didn't ask him. They asked Orlando Bloom.
Well, no, I was like, fuck, if they don't ask Orlando Bloom, I'm gonna set the studio on fire.
He wasn't in the book.
No, they went to Mirkwood. That was the only thing I was excited to see, and they fucked it up. I was just like, hell yeah, they're going to Mirkwood. They have it. It's not even. I don't want to hear nobody being like, oh, this is gratuitous. Legolas has every right to be in this movie. His dad's in it.
And then he stuck around.
Well, there was a love triangle, which was
and there was
ridiculous.
What was her name? Eowyn. No, not Arwen and Eowyn. God, I forgot her name. It's Wasp.
I know. I mean,
Evangeline Lilly.
Evangeline Lilly. Yeah, some.
That's how much I care about her character and her falling in love with the only hunky dwarf.
And I think I feel bad for her. I think she asked this isn't going to be a love triangle thing, right? Because that was her
of course
whole
not.
role in Lost, and her character would have been cool if they just kind of let go of that, of the obsession with love triangles, because that was the only thing that was so annoying about her character. And then because.
Here's the thing.
And then they fucked her over. Oh my
it's
God.
multiple problems. One is that
No, but you know what? I was not. I knew Viggo wasn't going to be in it because Viggo has integrity. Something that they.
Oh, you think even if they asked, he turned it down?
He did turn it down.
Oh.
He said no. It's a money grab.
He knew.
He did know. I kind of knew.
You were excited. We went to see it opening night. You had that same ring.
Wait.
We saw the first two together, and then you just said,
wait. Did I see it
Yes.
with you for the first time?
Yes, opening night.
No, I thought I saw
It had the high frame rate, and we were like, "What is up with this frame rate?"
Okay.
Was that Tyson's? You had that ring.
Well, I mean, I also I'm remembering I guess.
Then we saw the second with Anthony.
I saw it a second time, and I was like, maybe I was hoping that the graphics would look better, but they still looked horrible.
I saw it a second time with normal frame rate, and then I saw the sequels with normal frame rate. I was like, no.
I saw it a second time, and I was like, still not working for me. But no. Obviously, just being back in
Yeah,
being
it's
back
still
in the
pretty.
Shire, seeing a Frodo, I was like, Frodo, and
On the
also
boat.
huge since the British office was way more than 20 years. How old are we?
Martin Freeman was one of the highlights. He was wonderful.
He was perfect.
And then the movies become less and less about Bilbo.
Well, no, I was like, I don't care about some stupid CGI orc.
That was one of the big things you
I
pointed
don't
out.
care about it.
Aslan was a terrible villain.
I'm like, who cares? Does anyone care?
And the fact that he was not practical. He was very. You compared him to Kratos.
I know. I mean, what's it called? When I saw I Am Legend, I was like, oh no, is
Those vampires.
Will Smith gonna be attacked by those little cartoons? Who cares? They're cartoons. They're not urukai. Urukai freaked me out. They were so fucking terrifying when oh my God, Lurtz coming over the hill, they're just and then he's the growling noises, and he's gonna shoot.
And there's the griminess of them.
And then that fight with Aragorn. Peter Jackson, he loves the violence. They had to tone it down. They way toned down the violence of Aragorn's fight scene with Lurtz, like, while Boromir is dying. Like,
I love the fact that you're trying to pivot back to Lord of the Rings while we're talking about The Hobbit.
yeah, because it's fun. But also Viggo, like, all the, in the behind the scenes, like, they tell you a little bit about everyone, and everyone's like, Viggo, while he was there, Viggo, like, he was a last minute replacement.
Do you know who the original was?
I do. I don't like. I feel really bad for the guy for being left out. And the thing is I think they just cast too young. They really did.
Who was it?
It was that guy who was in that like vampire movie, Queen of the Underworld, or Queen of the Damned. Yeah, Queen of the Damned.
I don't know who that is.
Stuart Houndson, or like.
I don't know who that is. Anyway,
he was just a little too young. But he must have been going through like months. Like they went through months of training together, and like. They ended up calling Viggo, and then, and he like hadn't heard of Lord of the Rings.
He hadn't heard of it.
He was like, I don't know. He's like, I don't even know who you are and what this is. But
Who's his
son was a huge Lord.
And he
of
was
the
like,
Rings
do
fan.
it.
Yeah, they were like, they want you to play Aragorn, and he was like, all right, fine. But they're like, hey, do you want to come to New Zealand for a year? And and he was just like, who are you people?
Can I tell you really funny?
And they were like, and he was like, well, how long do I have to decide? They're like, 2 hours.
That's a big commitment to guess. Can I tell you a funny thing about, because you always hear about celebrities doing roles for their kids? Mm-hmm. You know the live action Mario movie?
Yeah.
So the guy who played Bowser in that, Dennis Hopper.
It already happened?
No, the animated one. The Chris Pratt one is coming out next year. It's animated. Oh. There was a live action one, 93, that everybody hates, but I love. And Dennis Hopper played Bowser as just a guy in a suit, a business suit. He actually kind of looks like Trump. People have made the joke. And apparently he was on Conan or something, and he remembers his son asking him, like, why did you do that movie, Dad? And he's like, I did it so you could get new shoes. And his son was like, I don't need new shoes that badly. But
that's a nice bird.
So the Hobbit. The thing is, let me say. Here's the two fundamental things beyond. So there's one. Rewatching, because I hadn't watched Lord of the Rings since around the time Hobbit came out, or maybe even before that, but I rewatched from this podcast. They have such an epic and theatrical and overwhelming, feel to them. Like
they have authenticity and
they feel mature. There's gravitas, and I mean this also ties into what the Hobbit was as a book. You can't recapture that. You don't have to make them. You don't have to make the Hobbit like a world-breaking epic about. The problem is he kind of tried.
Well,
the longer it went. Here's the other thing.
3 movies
yes,
for a book
it
that's
is
100.
One book. Before you had one movie per book. Now you're trying to do the same thing with a simpler book, and you're filling it with all this bullshit.
Yeah, like the thing is they had to cut. So like they're like. I know fans were sorry, but we had to cut this. We had to cut that. We had to cut this. For Lord of the Rings.
And so here's like we're keeping everything and we're adding everything.
I know, like what's his name? What's that stupid brown wizard? He's mentioned.
Oh, Radagast.
Radagast. He's mentioned.
And his bunnies.
You don't see him.
And his hedgehogs.
And also, it's just the muck and mire of studios. Ugh, it's as if the Ring made a movie.
And the Master and Alfred being Saturday morning cartoon villains, basically, just this like you thought Wormtongue was over the top.
Yeah.
Let's watch these guys and watch them a lot longer.
Oh, Jesus. Although I was so happy I caught Stephen Colbert's cameo the first time I saw.
Yeah.
I think it was the second movie.
There's a prancing pony scene, and I think you see Peter Jackson as the carrot guy again.
They go to Bree?
No, it's before it takes place before the first movie where what's his name? Where Thorin and Gandalf are meeting at the Prancing Pony to discuss Bilbo and this thing.
Is this in the third movie?
No, it's the second movie. I think that's where you see. So.
Oh no! I saw Colbert in like Lake Town or something.
Oh, maybe he's in Lake Town. Okay, well he's a civilian in this movie somewhere.
He used his eyebrow to like knock down he had like a eye
monocle?
Patch or something.
Oh.
An eye patch, and he used his how he has like those epic eyebrows.
Yeah.
He used it to like knock it into place.
Okay, they tried to fill it up with extra like all this Gandalf like going off and investigating Sauron.
It's as if the Sauron made a movie because it's the Ring. It's just greed. It's
all Sauron.
It's just studio. It's like who else would want that boring little cartoon thing? Like
who else would want to be that much of film, it should have been 1 or 2 movies.
Just like, hey, you know what we should do? Have an incredibly boring dude who's just boring, and he's CGI and he's boring, and doesn't everyone love being bored?
So here's the thing. There are elements and scenes of The Hobbit I really like. In fact, I was actually pretty pleased with the first movie outside of when they're in Rivendell talking about Sauron. I'm like, all right, you're losing me a little bit, but then the rest of the stuff is from the book, and I'm having fun.
What you didn't like? You didn't like to see like the lady like Galadriel again?
I thought I would, and then they were just. But what they were talking about was boring.
No, it wasn't, because it was Christopher Lee, and it was my man Hugo Weaving, and
you wouldn't be saying that if you saw the third movie where they fight a bunch of like armored ghosts.
But I didn't see the third movie because it was so boring. Third
movie was where it really fell apart.
No, but like they didn't no. To see Galadriel turn around and
I was happy to see her, but I was like,
music. It had.
It's like Star Wars prequels. It's cool to see them again, but they still need to be doing something cool.
No, for me, there was like more egregious stuff that I would cut. Although I love that they brought Fwigget back. Fwigget is his I don't know what name they gave him, but Brett from Flight of the Conchords, when he was like a 19-year-old college student, because he's from New Zealand, and pretty much if you're white and in New Zealand, you were cast as like an extra in
Lord
of the Rings. If you weren't white, you might have been put into like monster makeup. Yeah,
We'll talk about race in Middle Earth in a second.
So Brett from Flight of the Conchords, he was in Fellowship of the Ring for about 1.5 seconds. I was a fan. I saw the fan page made for him. His name is Fwigget.
Yep.
It stands for Frodo is Great. Who is that? And then I cannot. It was such a mind fuck. I don't know, 15 years later when I was like a fan of Flight of the Conchords, and then I was like, wait, Brett was Fwigget?
Yeah.
And I was like freaking out.
That is funny. I need to see Flight of the Conchords.
But oh my god, I was so they gave us, the fans, a little shout. Thank you, Peter. It was awesome. There's this beautiful scene in Return of the King where Arwen sees her future, a beautifully aged up Aragorn, and then she sees
their offspring.
And he looked like an elvish human child. It was so pretty, and it was kind of pretty the way it's sort of there and sort of not. You could kind of see the forest behind it, but it was kind of still there because it was just an image.
What does this have to do with Figlet?
Then it's Lady Arwen, we cannot delay.
Oh, that's him.
And I it cut, and she's like, Lady Arwen. And I in the theater, I went, I was like, Fwigget! I was like, oh my god.
That's funny.
And then I was like, oh my god, they gave Fwigget a line. They brought him, they totally did that as a thing for the fans. He's a character in The Hobbit.
So here's the thing. Like I was saying, there are... When the Hobbit movies try to stick close to the books, I think they're actually pretty fun. That's the frustrating thing. There's nuggets in there.
Yeah, I really did the... I was so happy to see Gollum.
The riddle scene was done fantastically by both Serkis and Freeman.
Mm-hmm.
Smaug was incredible.
Oh my god, dude, I do forget about that because that one thing
Bilbo.
that I was so pissed off. I was like, okay, look, you have Middle Earth, I love. You have dragons, I love, and you're fucking ruining it. And I was so mad when the movie ended with just Smaug. I was like, give me Smaug. I was like, I want Smaug.
Oh, I was mad when the second movie ended without his attack. It should have ended with his attack and death by Bard. Instead, it's just he flies away.
It was already how many hours long?
But also, I'm like, well, then if you take that away from the third movie has nothing.
It shouldn't be
a third movie.
The Battle of the Five Armies. Who gives a fuck?
Yeah.
You know how much?
But Azog, man.
You know how? Oh, I know. Jesus, do you know how long the Battle of the Five Armies was? I think it was a paragraph. It was Bill was like, oh, it happened.
Chapter.
I was asleep.
Yeah, he gets knocked out. And that happens in the movie too. The whole climax is about Thorin.
No, but it's just oh no! If you're gonna have it, I don't know. Do it creative. Don't.
Here's what the last thing I'm going to say. Then we'll close the book on The Hobbit. I told you that, and some of you might have seen the videos. One of the last viewings I did with my grandmother Mimi was The Hobbit, but because I wanted her to see that first, and then she'd have more context for Lord of the Rings. Because when you watch Fellowship, there are a lot of callbacks into it, and it feels like a good transition, especially and you're more invested in Bilbo.
Oh, like how?
If you watch them in chronological order.
I actually I remember being in the theater and like Gandalf like is looking through his stuff and you see the Lonely Mountain and you see
it has more impact when you've seen that adventure as lousy as it was. But here's the thing. Like I said, there are a lot of chunks of those movies that are good, which made it frustrating for me that they got progressively worse. Then and so originally I wasn't going to show them to me. I'd be like, no, Hobbit's not anything. Then I discovered fan edits, and I've told you about this one that I watched by a guy called Maple Films called J.R.R. Tolkien's The Hobbit, where the goal is cut out all the extraneous shit they made up, keep the focus on Bilbo, and make it like a 4-hour movie with an intermission. And it's really good.
Yeah, no,
it's really good.
I think maybe
I was able to enjoy that last movie watching this version.
No,
I never thought that could happen.
I mean, I do want to see the.
I can send you a link. It's like there's a torrent for it.
I do want to see
I have a way now.
I love Smaug.
I actually now have a way to revisit and enjoy The Hobbit as part of this series. Which
I'm glad that it's almost like modding.
Yes, if it was on the official means, I'd be like, fuck that. Do you remember when we were in the theater for something else and we got a promo for the extended edition of Battle of the Five Armies? We were both like, fuck you.
But so actually, I was curious. I was like, I wonder if they would stoop low enough to ask Viggo to come back, because I was like,
has he ever said?
I think he did somewhere. He said, I was like, no. I said no. Like I was like, but like a quote about him that Dominique, who plays Mary, said that always stuck with me. He's like, Viggo is an artist, and he really believes in it's like the truth of like whatever he's doing, and if he doesn't believe in it, he won't do it.
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah, he's not gonna do it. Like, it won like The Hobbit. I was like, okay, this could be good. Like, this is kind of scary because The Lord of the Rings means so much to me.
Yep.
Like, please don't be selfish. Can you make it one movie? I'm like, because that was around the time where like for some reason
it's doable.
All the book series
got split up. They split their second part in half.
Regardless, how
Harry
many,
Potter, Twilight, Hunger Games.
I know, regardless, because like the Hunger Games is 3 books. Like Twilight is like 4 books, I think. Like, and Harry Potter is like 7 books. But no matter what, it's like the last book split into 2 for no reason.
Make more money.
And
thankfully, that's a trend that doesn't seem as big these days. And I think it cost us a good Hobbit trilogy or Hobbit movie.
I was so happy though when Elijah walked it.
I was like, that wasn't in the book.
When they were setting the scene.
Well, I mean, Ian Holm too. That's one more time. I think actually that was his final role. He retired after that.
Christopher Lee
died soon after.
That was the only thing they didn't film in New Zealand. They filmed it in London
because he was too frail. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay, so moving on a little briefly, let's talk about what is most currently on people's mind with Middle-earth adaptation. Earlier today, I watched the first episode of The Rings of Power, Amazon's new TV series, though apparently one of the highest budget TV series ever.
I'm wondering if they did it because of House of Dragon, or do they just both happen to be coming out?
Maybe Game of Thrones.
What?
Maybe Game of Thrones, because it was in development for a while. There were rumblings about this show 3 years ago.
Well, like Game of Thrones probably was probably doing it too. House of Dragon must have been under production for a while. Like, they just both seem to have come out at the same time. And
I haven't researched that part, and maybe some of that's secretive.
I'm just curious. They're both prequels. I mean, they're both about they're both like, hey, here's a medieval setting, and the story, but this is 1,000 years before.
Yeah. So
it's just kind of weird timing.
First thing I'll say is this is the latest thing to get racist nerds angry because you have people of color playing Middle-earth people. I will say I wish that Jackson had thought to incorporate that before. He actually did a little bit with some of the civilians of Lake Town.
I noticed that. Yeah.
But it was a little too late.
For me, actually, it was more just egregious that anytime they showed a human that wasn't good, that was potentially on Sauron's side, that they were noticeably darker. And I was like, come the fuck on. Fuck off, Peter. Stop it. I know, he was, partially inspired by some stupid, film for Helm's Deep,
some old racist movie.
Yeah, it actually was an old racist movie. It was about, something Zulu, like
Was there any Fu Manchu involved?
no, but it was supposed to be about these like
Shang-Chi's canonical
like,
father?
Oh no, these poor British like
Colonizers.
like
The savages.
Like the natives are like trying to protect themselves from
They're
the
trying to
colonizers.
protect
Oh,
their
no.
land. How
And
dare
it's
they?
Like, okay, then that movie might be like a piece of shit, but like I don't know, like Jackson saw it and took some inspiration from it for I think the build up to Helm's Deep, and Helm's Deep is fine, but like. Jesus, like you see some humans like you see the black gates of Mordor and you see them open up, and that was a pretty awesome bigature. I can't believe there's a bigature on wheels, and they actually show it on the scale that they do, but you see that this is the point where like the Elvish cloaks come into handy because they just put the cloak over themselves and they look like a rock, and it's because Elvish cloaks.
Yes, okay,
are
now I know what
awesome.
part you're talking about.
But the evil humans were like,
Darker
oh,
skin,
look,
yeah.
it looks like they're Middle Easterners. Ugh. And I was like,
So-
oh, come on.
So I guess you could say that this series is like kind of retconning things a bit, or you could say that like some of those races went to different continents or something if you want to be technical. But I mean, I think it's cool to see like black hobbits and elves and stuff like that.
I mean, like the thing is, like people are always.
It's also just the way the market's going.
No, but people are always crying. They're like, "Oh, it's not realistic," and it's like, actually, it is realistic. Like there was, like, I mean,
It is more realistic,
There
yeah.
was a period where there wasn't anything.
I read about.
There was a period where there wasn't any like going back and forth between like the old world and the new world. But there was never a period where like Europe was as if it was the Americas and the rest of the world was like undiscovered and not touched.
And I will say the
there were like Muslim Vikings, it's like there was never a period where there was only white people in Europe.
Yeah. So one thing I'll say is the show, like I said, it's one of the highest budget shows ever. It shows it's gorgeous. It could actually pass for a movie for the most part. Mm-hmm. I did notice. I don't think as much of the budget went to actors because they mostly hired unknowns, I believe.
There's not nothing wrong.
And no, it's not. No, I'm not complaining. And actually, it gives an advantage because we do see younger versions in the first episode of Elrond and Galadriel, and they were able to get some pretty good, looking like a young Cate Blanchett or like a 20-something. What's his name?
Hugo Weaving.
Hugo Weaving. So which
who rapped in Elvish for the best Trilogy video.
That's right. Watch that video, people.
Rapped in Elvish.
And so it's cool to see more of this world. And the first episode, I will say, I can't really. It's not fair to judge the whole series by that. The first episode is a lot of establishing these characters and plight, which is the idea.
So were they given the rings already?
No.
So Galadriel's not a ring bearer.
No.
Okay.
In fact, Galadriel's big thing. Galadriel is pretty different in this because she's a lot more pissed off and actually a warrior in this period because this is kind of around the first war with Sauron, and I'm not sure they say that like that is over.
She has a war with Sauron.
She doesn't fight. I don't think she fights in it, but her brother does.
Wait, but if Sauron's already revealed himself, because Sauron tricked them first by giving them rings, and she accepted one,
Okay, well that hasn't happened yet.
Well, but why would she fall for it if she's fighting Sauron?
Maybe this is different. Maybe they retcon some stuff, or maybe I'm mixing stuff up.
Or maybe she does have the ring and they just didn't make a big deal of it. Like
Maybe they haven't
it's
revealed
not the ring; it's her ring.
It's literally called Rings of Power. This is about being. I think you assume that that's multiple. This is when he gave multiple rings to people and.
Yeah. So, but.
I don't know, man. I'm don't shoot the messenger. I'm just remembering it as it was, and
maybe they're Tarantinoing it.
Maybe they are, or maybe there's some stuff that I'm remembering wrong, or maybe there's some stuff that gets clarified as the series goes on. But
because Sauron gave them the rings.
But it does touch on some stuff like how, as this previous war is winding down and the elves are ready to declare peacetime because there's no trace of enemies, Galadriel is still convinced there are traces out there, and she's working people to the bone trying to find it. And also we have this village that's a human village that is like overseen by an elf settlement, and there's clear racial and societal resentment against the elves.
Sounds very much like Skyrim.
Yeah, and there's like this punk village teenager like, why don't you get out of here, you pointies? They call them pointies and stuff like that.
That's so lame. I'm like, shut up, you brownies. I'm like,
up, you.
I live longer than you. Go away.
But from what I've seen, it is good. Mm-hmm. The show, it's good TV, and you even find out stuff like Galadriel was meant to go to Grey Havens eventually, and she fled the ship because she felt she had unfinished business. Huh. So like because she'd already earned like a warrior's whatever you call it, like a piece. I think that's the other thing people are complaining about. Like, I don't want to see women in armor and stuff like that. I'm like, you mean like Eowyn and Arwen fighting off the Nazgul and stuff like that? You dumbasses. That's like people saying like, I don't want black people and women in Star Wars. I mean like Lando and Leia, you dumbasses.
It's just noisy,
noisy racist.
Yeah, and I don't. Luckily, I haven't seen anything like that on my feed.
I keep getting YouTube recommendations. I have to keep blocking so many channels. They're like hydras. You get rid of one and two more pop up.
Oh wow, I'm so lucky. Like I don't get those. Like
I'm not consuming those kind of videos. YouTube. Why do you think? Is it because I watch videos about the movies themselves? That's probably it.
I get like reaction videos, but not like.
The algorithm hates me, but
I mean, I used because I was so.
But I did want to ask, like, you're just not interested in Rings of Power at all. So why is that?
I'm not. No, like, no. That's more how I feel about House of Dragon. Like House of Dragon, I am not interested at all. Like people say it's good. If it's good, like when the series ends,
if people still like it, then
yeah, I'll look into it after the series is over. If it's good, like if it's good. Otherwise, no interest. This, I'm just like kind of like I don't know. I haven't seen a trailer. I'm like, is it on the Silmarillion? Like,
it is inspired by appendices, according to the credits.
It's inspired by the appendices, but not the Silmarillion. Like,
I don't know.
Why would it be inspired by the Silmarillion? It's just like, I don't know. Like,
it does seem like the next thing they'd adapt, but maybe they're saving that for a movie.
No, but like the Silmarillion is just kind of like it's just a history book of Middle Earth. Like that's what it is.
Oh.
Like,
well, they'd have to craft a story around that, like they did with all Hobbit stuff.
But that's what it sounds like. I mean, the appendices. Some of the appendices are just like fucking like rules and like are just like being like, hey, look, here's all the ways to write Elvish. Like
yeah.
There's the appendices that they most dug through for Arwen were I mean yeah, like the most important appendices, like especially to Tolkien, was the one about Aragorn and Arwen. It wasn't really Aragorn's story, so he didn't really put the fact that Aragorn has this like. I mean, it is a very it's really apt for cinematic adaptation, especially with like so like her dad being like fuck off.
Here's my question from me to you.
Oh, like I don't know. It's like similarly, I haven't seen a trailer. I'm just like
Rings of Power.
Rings of Power. I'm just like I don't know. Like,
I know. Weren't you hoping that Jackson was involved?
Well, like
he's not.
Well, I was like, you shouldn't have been the studio's bitch boy for Hobbit.
Yeah.
Yeah, like
Maybe do some advice or get some advice on this one. Maybe he could have given them some advice or something like some notes.
Yeah. Oh, I mean, like to me, he'll always be a part of the Lord of the Rings
family.
But
I will say it also, because it's different directors and crew. Actually, the person who directed the first episode did a movie I loved a couple years ago, A Monster Calls. Very underrated.
I've heard of it.
Great movie. I actually covered it on one of the early episodes of the podcast, and it's well directed and well acted and all that. But it's interesting now I'm realizing like these three different iterations of the Middle Earth between Lord of the Rings and The Hobbit and now this, they're all having different feels. I think The Hobbit is due to the source material being different, and this is due to being made by a different crew.
Huh?
The vibe is different. It's like it doesn't quite even though like some of the architecture is similar, it feels like a different take on Middle Earth.
Well, I mean,
I'm not even sure if it's canon to WB stuff.
Like what's it called? I wouldn't say WB stuff. Like
New Line stuff.
No, I'm just like, I mean, I know that they changed some things, but the Lord of the Rings, like the Lord of the Rings movies are like so like faithful for me, where I'm like, they're not their own, like they're not a different universe, like they are, like they're just like, I mean, I know Frodo's 50 and he's played by a 19-year-old, and like
that's a change.
Like it is a change, but the thing is like it was good. I think it was the right call. I think you needed innocence. I mean, I think what you needed from Frodo was innocence, like that, because like I think what's it called? You don't have the elves show up at Helm's Deep. But elves were fighting during this time, like they were fighting the forces of like Isengard and stuff. So, but
guard.
But like having that little like all the changes they made, I'm like, I understand why you made them. Like separating, like, oh my god, Faramir would be the one that most people would complain about, and I was a little like in the second movie, I'm like, why what the fuck is this guy's problem? He's nothing. Faramir says about the ring, he's like, if I saw that on the side of the road, I wouldn't pick it up. He says that about the ring. And in the movie, he, like, grabs Frodo. This is, like, the Lord of the Rings version of Dumbledore. Like,
Harry, you put your name in the goblet.
Dumbledore asks calmly, like, he's like, Faramir grabs Frodo by the lapel and he's like, give me the fucking ring.
Oh, I would love it if he said, I would never take the ring. I saw it on the side of the road.
But they're like, you know, they were like, wait, okay, one, if you have a character say that, you just undid all the establishment you were trying to do about this ring is dangerous, the ring needs to be destroyed, it can corrupt anyone, and then this Faramir like, I don't give a shit about it, and you're like, oh, never mind. It, like, you're blowing things out of proportion.
Yeah, everybody is tempted by it. Even Gandalf was like, don't let me touch that thing.
Oh, especially people who, like, could wield it, like,
And wreck shit.
Yeah, like, for when it was given,
Galadriel,
like,
Gandalf.
Galadriel, Gandalf. That was like, ooh, that's very cool. Like, you know, that could very go.
I like that
we've
tried to talk. I've been trying to have us talk about the newer iterations, and it all keeps cycling back to Lord of the Rings.
My mind's just about Lord of the Rings.
But let me just ask you: do you think you will? Do you think there is a chance that you will watch Rings of Power down the line?
Yeah, I'm not against it. It's definitely not like House of Dragon. I will not watch it until the last season is out, and then maybe I'll consider it. Like, I have nothing like against this new one. You know what I was thinking? Like when you're saying like they cast like, you know, younger versions of Galadriel and Elrond.
Maybe other characters.
It reminded me of like casting Ewan McGregor as
Obi-Wan.
Yeah, and like
good casting.
You know, it's funny because like I think it'd be really hard to tell what good casting was when he was originally cast, like
because the movies were not the best.
No, because like. That was the farthest he was from Alec Guinness, you know, like
he was younger, yeah. Clean shaven.
But then, like, I was like, wow, he like as he like got older, I was like, dude, this is a really good cat. Like,
we need to watch the miniseries at some point because he's good in that too.
I know. Oh my god, I know. I know. I was thinking of him. I just saw Trainspotting 2, which was like a big
talented actor.
Yeah.
But I guess we can start wrapping things to a close. Altogether, this Lord of the Rings, Cyberpunk, and Skyrim talk has taken us 3.5 hours of time. This is why I'm glad I didn't have anything else going on this evening. And you as well. And I was going to say the cat is judging us judgmentally over, but I think she's asleep.
She is asleep. She was just like, she's like, get over
silly
it.
Humans talking about their silly movies.
She's like, the only movie that anyone should watch is Cats.
Oh, God. And I told you, I showed Mimi the trailer for that.
I know.
And she was like, oh, she was marveling at it. John, such effects, such talent.
I think it might be a generational thing that Uncanny Valley might be different for her.
Yeah.
Like, you know, I actually think that's really interesting. That, like, that maybe for some older people, like, that... Like
they don't see it.
It doesn't clock. Yeah, like that. I think that's super.
Because they grew up on the old King Kong.
Yeah, just like for me, I'm like, you don't think that's creepy? That's interesting. Like, because like we might automatically be like, nope, wrong, inhuman. I don't like it. Like, you know.
My brother and his wife saw that in theaters, ironically, with a bunch of friends. Apparently, they had a great time. But I want to say this draws things to a close. Mia, again, thank you so much for joining me for this sprawling talk. We actually managed to talk about as long as one of these movies.
Dude, like
maybe not extended edition.
Like, I mean, I just want to say I am the best and the worst person to watch these movies with because one, I'll cry through the entire thing.
Yep. You cried through this entire episode.
I'll sob into. I literally like my sister-in-law just was like. She was
like, "What's wrong with you?"
Well, she just like turned it on TV. I was like, "How dare you? One does not just turn on Lord of the Rings." And then she was like, "Oh, you're not kidding." As in, I was like sobbing into the pillow.
So,
I was like,
people can still. Are you still active on Tumblr?
A little bit, yeah.
What is it? Pate the Novice?
Pate the Novice, yeah.
P-A-T-E, the Novice.
Mm-hmm, yeah.
All right. As for me,
thank you.
Yeah, as for me, you can find me on YouTube under Behon, B-E-H-O-N, and at Behon Art, B-E-H-O-N-A-R-T, on Twitter, Tumblr, and Instagram. Again, you can find the show's page on Twitter and Facebook under Sketch Watch Play, no spaces. And I'm happy to announce, normally I don't have episodes planned ahead of time, following episodes planned ahead of time, but I can say, I definitely say the guest for one. So Next episode will be episode 49. We had actually planned to record it first, but the guest needed more time. I'll be happy to have our good friend Felipe Diaz-Vera back on as we do a general look back at the PlayStation 2.
Oh, man.
Which both for me and Felipe... Parappa 1 was on PS1, Parappa 2 was on PS2.
Right.
So yes, technically. But we will be one of my favorite consoles of all time, tied with Super Nintendo. That'll be a great look back. Also going back to the early 2000s. 2000s nostalgia is in full swing, people.
Well, let's just try and, if we just
Preserve
pretend enough that it's happening, we can eventually go back.
And then, we've had conversations about this. Episode 50, I feel like for every multiple of 25, I want to do something big, especially if we ever hit episode 100, like a decade from now. Episode 25, I picked my favorite anime of all time, Castle in the Sky, to discuss with Chris. Episode 50, I am trying to get multiple people who have been recurring guest stars on. I'm not going to announce them until they're all locked in. There's one I need to confirm with. But I can tell you, people, episode 50, The Lion King. Get ready.
The Lion King.
The original.
Okay, I was like, that can mean lots of things.
I will touch on the sequels and the remake. I've never seen either. I've tried watching Lion King 2 and bailed at 20 minutes in, but I'll watch them and touch on those. But no, we're mainly going to talk, the one that everybody agrees is awesome.
Not to end the note on bitterness, but because I got so bitter when we went to The Hobbit. But I'm a little sad because The Lion King is my favorite Disney movie.
Yeah,
and when you said that, favorite. I didn't immediately get excited.
You thought about the remake.
I was like, well, what does that mean? What are you talking about?
For the big episode 50, I'm picking this remake nobody liked.
It's like a weird animal documentary, except they put voices on it, but these... And
they don't emote.
I saw the saddest scene in The Lion King, and it was
and you felt nothing.
Boring.
Yeah.
I was like, wow, this is
everything I've seen about it feels off. But even animators from the original were saying on Instagram, guys, I don't know about this remake. They kind of didn't. I don't know.
They're doing all the remakes, right? I think it's.
They just did Pinocchio. They're doing Lilo and Stitch.
I think it's what's it called? Copyright thing. It's like, I mean,
Lilo and Stitch is 20 years old in an original creation. That's not a
yeah.
Lion King, those are it's a money grab. It's like The Hobbit.
No, but they started this whole people are like, do we need Aladdin? Do we need a Mulan?
No, we don't.
But the thing is, though, there's a joke. I haven't studied law enough to know it, but people joke that copyright law is written by Disney. But it used to be something I don't know.
Mickey still should be in the public domain, but he's not.
Yeah, and I'm glad that stories
what did this next time episode talk turn into?
What?
I was just going here's what you can look forward to next time, and now we're rambling about Disney and copyright law.
Well, I mean, it just seems like they are trying to keep it out of public domain. It should be public domain by now, but whatever. Disney owns
Disney's
us.
gonna be
Disney owns us all, and you know what? We are kind of sometimes we're thank you, Disney.
Sometimes, yes.
Thank you, Obi-Wan. I'm happy to watch Obi-Wan.
I need to finish it, and I need to start Andor. I'm hearing it's the best one since Mando. I skipped Book of Boba Fett because I heard it sucked. But yeah, that's going to do it. And I'm John Fleury, and Mia, do you have any?
John, can I ask you a real quick question?
You can ask.
Do you have a favorite moment in the original Lord of the Rings trilogy?
I mean, emotionally, the fall of Gandalf and the good farewell, and and the Edge of Night when Pippin sings during the charge.
It's beautiful.
All right, what about you?
I
think I know yours. You said it earlier.
Yeah, I think it's Sam's monologue
about being good in the world. There you go. There she goes. I lost count how many times she's buried her face in her palms.
It's they're so good in the world. It's just run out of 35
Words to live by. As Mia collapses her composure, I wish you all a good evening.
Don't say we have come now to the end. White shores are calling. You and I